Yo, it's your boy Deezy, man. You already know it's not about the setback. It's about the get back. I want to appreciate everyone that's became a member, that subscribed to the channel, and that watches the channel. I appreciate y'all. If you haven't already, hit that notification bell. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we go live. I appreciate all of y'all that rock with me, and I hope y'all continue to rock with me. Yo, what's poppin', man? They got the jury back there deliberating, right? And it's already something. You know, they sent the jury note out, and one of the jurors is saying, man, I can't follow these instructions. And guess what? Now, there's 12 juror members. 7 of them are men. 5 of them are women. So, do y'all think that all of the men are gonna say he's guilty of the RICO? I think it's a possibility, man, that they might not all be able to come to a decision. From what I'm seeing, it's a possibility that they all might not be able to come to a decision, especially when it start off from the door as they don't know and they can't, agree. They already beefing. They beefing soon as it start. So it could be good for Diddy, And it's a possibility that Diddy might get a hung jury. I doubt that they all come back and say not guilty, but I doubt that they all say the man is guilty. I see that, some people gonna say I'm not buying it. Some people gonna say he's guilty. And some people gonna look at it like they was participating. Some people gonna look at it like they was forced. We don't know which way it's gonna go. It's in the jury's hands. And they having beef already, man. If you haven't already smashed the like button, hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button.
What happens? Now, the judge says we've received a note from the jury that we have a juror, specifically juror 25, who we believe cannot follow your instructions. I would like to meet with the court about it. So the judge says, I suggest asking for more information. So that's kind of crazy, you guys. I mean, this morning we reported about jury instructions, right? This is so important going into deliberations almost 2 hours in, and it sounds like one of these jurors, juror number 25, says they might not be able to follow the instructions, which is the most important thing we have here. Whew, I got a lot of questions, and I want to break down the jury, too. So let's do that quick before we get to our all-star panel of guests, who, by the way, I'm going to have a lot of good questions for them. And if you guys have questions, throw them into our chat, and we'll get to as many as we can. So here's the breakdown of the jury as of right now, okay? This could be changing. Who's to say? I'm not going to report anything we don't know yet. But here's what we've got. So a male, an investment analyst. He's 31 years old, okay? So am I. So right around my age, my contemporary. And that's what it's supposed to be, right? A jury of P. Diddy's peers, okay? Another male, he is a scientist, age 51. So already we've got a pretty educated jury. On to another member, a male social worker, age 39. Another male architect, 57. I believe we've talked about him specifically, the architect, the newer juror who replaced juror number 6, because of course we all remember when that debacle happened. Another man, we've got a male-heavy jury here. He is a field technician, age 68. Another man, logistics analyst, age 67. So I guess that kind of shows the range in the age of these jurors too. Another male, he's now retired though, age 68, formerly in finance. Then onto the female side of the jury, okay? This one is 30 years old. She's a deli clerk. Another female, dietary aide, age 42, okay? The next female, a treatment coordinator, age 74, which again shows the diversity we have here, especially in the ages of these jurors. 43 years old is the next juror, a female. She's a physician's assistant. And then the final one rounds us out, age 69, massage therapist. So you can just kind of see there the diversity that we have here in the jury. And by the way, I do have...
Definitely diversity. You see, they got older people and younger people. And this why I don't think they all gonna be able to come to the same conclusion, because it's different ages and people gonna look at this different, you know? So I think it's gonna be a hung jury. I think that, you know, he got a possibility that they might say, take this plea, you know, 3 to 5 and see what Diddy say. Diddy might say, I ain't taking it. You know, he might say, man, I'm going all the way to clear my name. I ain't taking nothing.
Have more updates about that note. I promise we will get to our panel in a minute, but here's what we have live from the courthouse behind me. This is AUSA Maureen Comey, the lead prosecutor for the government. She says, may we have a moment to digest what your honor has proposed. This is very sensitive. Then Mark Agnifilo for the defense, he replies and says, I suggest we just tell them it is early. You are just getting started. If there is a further issue, please let us know. Comey then replies and says, if we go that route, we suggest instructing the jurors it is important not to include any information about what is going on in the jury room. We are looking at U.S. versus Baker 262. So she's talking about a very specific citing something that has to do with all of this. Whoa, this is pretty heavy, you guys. Not to quote Marty McFly or Doc Brown here, but this is getting heavy, and I got to bring in our all-star panel of guests to break it all down with me, okay? So we have criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla, who's been a favorite on our live stream, and then, of course, criminal defense attorney Brian McMonigal. Thank you so much, both of you, for sticking with us. And Brian, I've got to ask you right away, what are you making of this jury note or question?
It's stunning. This early for there to be a note of that nature is stunning. They just began deliberating. And the indication is, at least from the foreman, that one of the jurors has just basically said, I'm not cooperating. We've had situations like that here in Philadelphia. And jurors have been replaced for that very reason, where they've been unwilling to deliberate with their fellow jurors, where they're unwilling to listen to instructions. I know we're getting a little bit down the road on this, but if in fact that is the case and the judge becomes concerned, he has the ability to bring the jury in one by one and voir dire each and every one of them about what this juror has done, and the juror themselves to ask questions about it. You know, we're not there yet. It looks like both sides don't want to get to that point, but that's how this ends. This problem continues, which with voir dire and the possibility, not the probability, but the possibility that a juror could be replaced with an alternate.
If they beefing already, you know what it is. It's people in there that's not agreeing with the person at the front of the jury is trying to come up with. Nah, I ain't feeling that. I'm not feeling that. You can say that, but I'm not agreeing. And they sending a note to the judge that quick. That right there, I know when Diddy seen that, that made him feel like, okay, all right, I feel like I got a shot. Because when the jury starts sending notes, that means they not certain. They on the ropes about things. They like, should I do this? Or, you know, and this somebody saying, man, I can't go with this. Man, I ain't with it. So it could be, beneficial for him.
So this is stunning for me.
I think stunning is a great word for it. It's not something that we've expected. I mean, you viewers can look at the clock that we have here. We're not even at 2 hours yet into deliberations, and already something so stark such as this. I do
Definitely
have
a bad sign for the prosecution.
The judge says
Definitely.
both sides, and he's telling them, confer on a response. I'll stay here. So kind of, you two discuss. Mauricio, I've got to ask you, what does this mean? What are your thoughts?
They're fighting early on. They're fighting. They're not even fighting about the decision. They're fighting about how they're going to come up to the decision. So I think that when you read into the question, I think what the question's highlighting is a power play that's going on. So one person is not getting along with another person. Maybe the fourth person has a problem with another person, and now he's saying, you're not following the rules given to us by the court. But when I hear that question, for me, it highlights that there's personality issues at play, and that
it definitely could be that too, because some people might feel like, he's guilty, and somebody might be feeling like he's railroad. Man, nah, it's a lot going on. And they got to look at it if the people participated, were they involved and willing to do this? Come on now, were they really forced to do this? So, it might be that. It might be some people like, man, hold up. I don't think they was forced. They was doing shit on their own. You can't make me believe that they was forced and they did something on their own. That's what I'm not going for. Straight up. Somebody that's forced to do something, they not going to go out and plan to do it without you pushing them. And they trying to make it look like they was forced when these victims, allegedly victims, was planning to do shit. So that right there, I know if I was on the jury panel, I'm going to be like, hold up, man. Hold up, man. Like, we got to look at these text messages. Like, they was sending text messages like they was with it. But then, when they ain't get their way on certain things, they not with it. Come on, man.
And that they're fighting. So let's see what happens. But shocking that it's happening so quickly. And imagine, it's not, it would foreshadow that this is going to be a long, drawn-out deliberation, that they've come up with that question only 2 hours in.
And I mean, the jury is so important, right? They're so paramount into all of this. And as you were talking, Mauricio, I was thinking the same thing. Like, if they're already arguing about all of this, we're looking at a long deliberation time, which, by the way, I am hosting live from the field, so I don't have a projection of like what we're seeing. So I do want to say that our note, I think I said we weren't quite at 2 hours yet. It looks like we're at 2 hours and 2 minutes, at least in the last minute, as far as the jury clock, or the deliberation clock, rather. It's being kind of funky, but that's kind of where we're at. So 2 hours, either way, pretty early. Now, I got to get to some of our viewer questions that we have for you guys, because a lot of you have provided us with some really stellar questions. So I'm going to start with this one for you, Brian. This is A Fly Guy says, a question for the panel. Is the jury in a federal trial exposed to the gallery where those people could see them, or are they somewhat secluded? And I believe I have a general answer to this. I haven't been inside the courtroom, but we do have our reporter, Elizabeth Milner, who's been in, talked to us about how jury...
Definitely. The prosecution trying to make the instructions just fit over here, but y'all was saying we need to focus on everything. That there definitely sends an alert off in somebody's mind. Like, why are y'all trying to change this the day of? Y'all could have been said, all right, we're going to let this go. But the day of, like, why y'all doing this? Y'all making me think like it's something else I gotta worry about. Y'all doing this because y'all got a personal vendetta against this man.
the jurors rather are responding to things specifically like those freak off videos, were they hiding their faces? What were they doing? So what is your answer to this, Brian? Can they see the gallery and kind of interact in a way?
Well, in every trial I've ever had, the jury can see the gallery. They can see the entire courtroom, and the entire courtroom can see them. I know that there are issues in this case where they have kind of blocked off things for one reason or another. But the simple answer is yes, they're supposed to be able to see the gallery. It is a public courtroom, and it should be open, and it should be, a situation where everybody can see everybody.
And I mean, that is the beauty of America. These are public courthouses. So if you are watching right now and you want to come see the Diddy trial, I mean, they are in deliberation, so they're a bit more secluded then, but you're allowed to just come down to this courthouse here in southern Manhattan, walk in and go. I mean, that's really all you need. Now, for a case like P. Diddy, obviously, there's a bigger list. There's media credentials and things that go into it, but that's really what it is. And it's only kind of different in the federal system that we don't get cameras because it is federal. In some states, we can live stream the court. I mean, I know a lot of you long crime viewers have seen all of that. So it is interesting. Now, on to another question that we have from one of our viewers, Navy Mom FL, I'm guessing Florida, 7294. This one's going for you, Mauricio, because I know you have a history with Florida. So maybe this question doesn't have anything to do with Florida, but hey, I'm connecting you two. Now, she says, Long Crime Network, what are the odds jury tampering occurred? And did Diddy somehow pay off a juror? Sounds like a movie, but movies are based on reality. I mean, anything's possible in this case, Mauricio. What do you?
Nah, I ain't going for that. You know what I do want to say with these people that do be reporting this stuff, I feel like they be poisoning the people's brains with the information that they put out there, right? It's like y'all say certain things, but it's not accurate, but you want to make it look like that. You know what I mean? And the guy that's about to speak, he's saying it like he knows. Yeah, like those type of people, they try to put like a different influence into the mind because we easily influenced about a lot of things. And I think that when these type of people try to make it like they know, it's really influential on the mind of the people in the jury. And then when they influence the people get to saying certain things and then the jury see it. And I think that when they come out to the public like this, it really messes with the mind. It doesn't give the people the time to just pay attention to what's there. They really paying attention to what others' opinions are as well when they go into making their decisions. So I think that when you are in a situation like this and you're a public figure, they already find you guilty in the public eye. And it's like that automatically. If you get charged with something and you are a celebrity, famous, the people already say you guilty because of what they say about you. And you got to prove your innocence or, whatever it is, because you might be guilty of something, but not everything. But they already say you guilty because the pressure that the public put on you, man. And this shit can happen to anybody, for real, if they, want to get you out of here. But this how they do.
What do you think about jury tampering?
Well, listen, anything's possible, but I think it's a stretch to read that into the note that was just published from the jury. They're just saying that there's a juror that refuses to, abide by the rules given to them by the court. It's a little bit of a stretch to now imply that P. Diddy bought a juror. But I mean, the way that he's conducted himself, not only historically, but ever since his incarceration, it wouldn't be something that I don't think anybody would be shocked at. Because he seems to be such a controlling individual. He seems to be the type of guy that thinks that he can control anything, including a federal trial, including jurors. So I wouldn't be shocked if something like that comes out eventually.
Nah, see, when they say things like this right here, Like, come on, man. I think that be like manipulating the people's mind. You know, nobody's saying that the man is trying to get at the jury, man. Stop that, man. The man is in jail, and trust and believe at this point while the trial is going on, they monitoring to the T. Every phone call, why he talked to his lawyer, everything. So I think that they be on some BS with that, trying to make people think certain things. Now, this man, life on the line, and it's to the jury. And he's saying that it's a possibility that the man could have tampered with the jury. Like, come on, man. That's foul shit, man.
Especially since I remember in this case they had him on the jail phone talking to people and trying to influence certain people. I know that he tried social media to try and influence certain certain chunks of the population with his social media presence. So I wouldn't be shocked, but it is a stretch to read that into the note that was just published.
He said he wouldn't be shocked. You should be shocked. You know they got the man under close observation. So why wouldn't you be shocked if he was able to get to the jury? Like, the feds got him. They already done been on him about talking on the phone. Why wouldn't you be shocked at this point, knowing that a microscope is on him? Straight up. Straight up.
And now I do have a real-time update for all of you. Thank you, by the way, to our producers who are working tirelessly on this live stream to bring you the updates. Juliana, Jordan, Alex, Nick. So many people are going into making this possible. So keep sending us questions and shout-outs for those people. I love to say it. Okay, so here's an update that we have about juror number 25, right? The juror in question who says they may not be able to follow the directions, the jury instructions. So here's what we know. According to NBC, I do want to cite that, juror number 25, a 51-year-old male from Manhattan who has a PhD in molecular biology and neuroscience, so got the credentials there. He listens to classical music and opera, and his hobbies include art, science, cooking, and the outdoors. Okay, so now that we know a bit more about that juror, Ryan, does it make any more sense why this person would have any sort of problem following these instructions?
Now, so what are the music he likes to listen to? And this is not letting you know a person because you know what kind of music they listen to or you know where they worked at. People work in all different places that, got different ways of thinking. But they want people to think that by the outside appearance of one's job and what they, like to do is how you identify a person. And I think that's wrong because you don't know what a person is thinking besides where they work and what they do. Like,
clearly an educated person who should be able to follow them. Do you think it's more of a moral or ethical issue?
It makes absolutely no sense to me based on the individual that you've just described, if in fact that is the individual who,
crazy,
according to the foreman, is creating the problem. But, people are, as Mauricio will tell you, everybody's different. Everybody reacts to things differently. Everybody's got their own personalities. There may be significant personality conflicts. You may have the foreperson being of one personality, the individual in question of another, and they're just colliding. And you see that a lot with juries. You just don't see that kind of question this quickly. Usually you get that kind of a question, 2 days after deliberations where everybody's been banging their heads and they can't have a meeting of the minds and somebody goes and sits in a corner. You never have it 2 hours in. So there's a significant issue here where somebody...
the case wasn't signed and sealed. It ain't like they just proved the case without a reasonable doubt. Like, it's doubt. This is why the questions are being asked. Straight up. I think Diddy gonna get a hung jury. I don't think all 12 of them are going to say not guilty. I think you're going to get a hung jury. It's a possibility that they might come to a decision on the RICO, whereas though they say, nah, we don't think he's guilty of RICO, but some of those other charges, I don't think they're going to be able to come, to a unanimous decision. I think it's going to be some people saying yay and some saying no, straight up.
Has angered somebody else, or basically decided that they're just not going to communicate in some fashion, which is a real danger for the prosecution.
It sounds like things are fiery. I mean, I'm here in Manhattan. I have my fan. This is my third fan. I have two more here. So things are hot outside, and it sounds like things are hot inside too. I mean, it's this soon. What you're saying, Brian, this soon we have somebody who's stirring the pot in this way. I mean, I don't know. Things are fiery. And again, I did describe juror number 25. I talked about, his history, all of that. That is from NBC. I do want to cite that and report that because we're still early on in as far as our reporting about this specific juror. So I gotta make sure to cite them in all of.
I know the prosecutors is sitting there like, damn, already, this might be bad for us, because they don't like to get no notes quick. They want a quick verdict. And if it's questions already and somebody's not agreeing and, it's friction in there, that means they not all on the same page. In the prosecution, they don't want that. They don't want everybody not on the same page. They want everybody to come together. This lets you know somebody in there is saying, nah, y'all on some BS. Straight up.
Of that. Now, we do have another person who wrote in asking about this question, and I guess this just goes to show we've been live streaming all day. We keep bringing you guys the updates. It's a bit out of date now, but I do still want to shout her out. Her name is Emily Atelier, I believe. She says, hey, what could this potential note from the jury be, which we, of course, now do know? What would be the question you would want to know this soon in deliberation? And I just had to shout her out. We, of course, now know what it is, so we'll discuss that. But she says, love the show. Thank you for your amazing coverage on this trial. So thank you so much, Emily, for watching. And any of you who have questions, again, keep dropping them down. Now, here's another viewer question we have. Can you ask the panel about their experience on working with jury consultants? Have either of you worked with the brilliant Linda Moreno, who's Diddy's jury consultant before? Mauricio, I'm going to toss that one to you. What do you make of jury consultants, which obviously are very important considering the jury is very important?
But I have worked with various jury consultants. I think they're important. If you have to get the right fit for the right case, and nowadays there's consultants that really use social media, and they while you're doing voir dire and you have your co-counsel, there's consultants that are right there on the spot researching to give you a better idea of who the juror is, when taking into consideration their social media profile and their, whatever, digital footprint they've left out there. So you have an idea of politically where they stand. So nowadays, consultants that actually use that type of technology can really assist you like never before.
So he let me know as a lawyer, right, that these jury members that are picked, the prosecution go and review their social media presence, and this is how they come up with if they think that the case is gonna go the way they wanted to go, on what type of person this person is from their social media presence. But you really don't know how somebody's thinking, but this is what they come up with. This is their analysis of people that are jury members. When you got a serious case, they going around and studying them. This is why I tell y'all it's a dirty game that they play. Straight up. It's a dirty game. It's the only thing is, in a RICO is broad, so they all don't have to agree on every single thing. They just have to agree on a couple things. It still falls under the RICO, so it takes all 12. I don't think all 12 of them going to come to a unanimous decision, because it's too many conflicting stories. I don't think all 12 of them going to come together.
So this is a whole new time for trial attorneys to take advantage of the fact that people's lives, their opinions, their mindset, all of it is public information many times that you could find and you could use to your advantage. And at the end of the day, picking a jury is the most stressful part of a trial. Why? Because trial attorneys know that you make a mistake there, you're going to lose. So regardless of what you did during the trial, if you made a mistake and you got that wrong juror on the jury, all of it was for nothing. The 8, 9, 10 weeks, and I've seen it play out in front of my face to my detriment and to my favor. So I've been around long enough to see it, work in both ways.
This was going to happen, though. This was going to happen. It's going to be 6, 7 weeks of this trial, and they not going to get the verdict they want. Yeah. 6, 7 weeks of this trial, they not going to get the verdict they want. Prosecution going to be sick. And this is why Diddy didn't testify. Like, hold up. I'm going to leave in the jury's mind of what y'all put out there. Y'all put out there a lot of wishy-washy things. And also, the jury knows of all the people that got immunity. They know this straight up. And if they seeing that these people that got immunity was texting and they was happy about setting these freak offs up, they gonna look at it like, well, damn, how is this a victim, right? They got immunity, but they was happy about putting the freak off together. They wasn't upset. This don't look forced. If you texting somebody and saying, you can't wait to see them and, we going to put this together and have a good time, you can't make somebody think that that was forced. But this is what they do, though. Straight up. They want to make, yo, she was forced, and, man, listen, she could have got up out of there. And Cassie got paid heavy. She could have got up out of there, man. Straight up, man. Yeah. So I'm thinking with that,
Consent versus sex.
Yeah, I'm thinking a little different, man. I ain't even gonna hold you when I see it, Because I know they be trying to, plant the seed and, manipulate the mind because it's their job. Prosecutors got the job of trying to make you believe something. They want to make you believe whatever. It could be not right what they trying to make you believe. But listen, and I say, if you do something wrong and you try to be slick, I ain't believing nothing you saying. Straight up. Why you gotta be slick if you trying to prove your point? But they slick a lot of times now. Straight up. Make sure you hit that like button. You're in the building, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate y'all.
Law that they will follow in this case that was explained to them by the judge. The last thing that they heard in this case were closing arguments. And I say this all the time, how important closing arguments are. The last attempt by each side to persuade the jury as to whether or not a defendant is guilty or not guilty, right? The last attempt to summarize all the evidence and testimony in a case in a compelling narrative. It's the last chance to convince the jurors. But here, in a complicated case like this, with so many charges and so many elements, closing arguments in this case were especially important. Think about the amount of testimony and the amount of evidence that the jurors were presented and have to comb through. How did they make sense of it all? And we heard from both the prosecution and the defense. And I have to believe that as the jurors go back to deliberate Diddy's fate, they will not only consider all that was presented to them over the course of a nearly 7-week trial, but also the closing arguments. They may be...
Hey, listen, the line is open, man. You can call in. You hear me? 757-770-6442. Let me know how you feel. You think Diddy going to jail? Let us know. If you think he going to walk, let us know, man. The line is open.
Guided by what the prosecution and the defense argued about the evidence and testimony. So we figured it's probably good to highlight some of the major.
Definitely the prosecution gets the rebuttal. Yeah, and that's crazy. It's like they get to paint the last picture in the mind of the jury. And I think it shouldn't be like that, man. I think the defense should get the last, let me say my piece. Y'all been up here proving a case or trying to prove a case the whole time. Let the defense have the last say. Straight up.
Key points from both the prosecution and the defense's closing arguments, maybe even wins by the prosecution and the defense in their closing arguments. And I say we because I'm not doing this alone. I want to bring on somebody who was there for every day of testimony in this case, and she was certainly there for the closing arguments. Somebody who knows the ins and outs of this case, Long Crimes in Court reporter Elizabeth Milner, or as everybody online likes to call her now, Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth is here for everybody. Elizabeth, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Jesse.
So,
I don't agree with the last word wins, though. I'm going to tell you why. I've been to trial 5 times, and the prosecution got the last word every time. So, I don't agree with that. Listen, it's who can convince. If the defense can convince the jury that these people were participants because they're going to go back and review all the text messages. They're going to go back and look at all the messages now. And, we hearing what they telling us out here, but they looking at it straight on. They looking at the times these women was happy about doing it. They looking at that now. So they got to choose if they believe, and then knowing that Cassie got a settlement, she got paid. Yeah, she was physically abused from the domestic violence. Yeah, it was a fight happened. He did wrong. He should be held accountable for that if it was in the statute of limitations. But those statute of limitations ran out. They been ran out. Shit was over 10 years ago. But they using that as evidence, but they can't hold them accountable. See, that's how dirty the game be. They're using evidence that they can't hold them accountable for to hold them accountable. So, is that fair though? It's a dirty game. Is that fair? That they get to use evidence that they can't charge him with, but they charging him with something else, but they're using this to paint the picture. I wonder if the world didn't see that tape, right? Would they still be looking at this the same way? Because the tape is what enhanced everybody's mind on this situation. But they can't charge him for what they seen on the tape. They can't charge him for that. So is that there a major part in the situation? Because when we see shit like that, it make you look at things a certain way and it influence you like, oh, he guilty of everything. I don't care what they say. Man, that man guilty of everything. So I'm seeing it as the tape was influential to the world, but they couldn't use it for what was on the tape. They just used it to influence the mind. But I say the prosecutors are good at playing the game dirty, and they play it well.
I'm going to start with the prosecution, and then we'll talk about the defense, and then we'll talk about the rebuttal prosecution closing. First up, we had AUSA, Assistant United States Attorney Christy Slavic, delivered the prosecution's closing argument. And what stood out to me, and I thought this was critical, is Slavic.
SBGB TV, it's a live call-in show. What's poppin', Slacks?
Hey, what's up, DZ? Look, when I went to trial, and they was like, oh, when they get the last closing argument, I was so scared. I was like, oh shit, they gonna get the last thing to put in the jury mind. I said, God damn. And I had the jury. One of the jurors was a daughter of she was the daughter of the police in Texas. I said, there's no way I'm gonna win this. When they told her that they took us to jail and they had all these drugs and they didn't take nobody to jail, she turned her lip up like, there's some bullshit right here. I was like, woo! I thought that was gonna smash me. I was gonna be over. No, that worked in my favor. She said, why didn't they arrest him? If y'all got all this stuff, nobody got arrested? Okay, I don't believe this. This some bullshit. So, and that shit helped me. That shit helped me get up out of there.
So what do you think about the Diddy situation, though? What do you think
the Diddy situation,
about this?
I really think he got action, but you know, when they put that 12 in the what they call it in the box, when they put them in the box and you got to fight that shit, it really will give you action at getting out. He got action. He got action.
Okay.
He got real action.
It's a possibility for him.
The crazy part about it is that I didn't really hear all this stuff when it came down to the last closing statements, but I already know what I heard they said. It kind of put the nail in the box. It kind of fucks him off.
So you think that he got a greater chance of being convicted than being not convicted?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I really believe that.
It's possible, you know.
It's very possible.
But what do you think about the note that the juror sent today, you know, saying that they wasn't, you know, agreeing with some things?
I really think that's really damaged. And I think that when they were talking about his son got a charge at the last minute, he was on the boat with the freak off.
So you think that might play into the jury's mind as well?
Yeah. I really think that. Hey, I really think that could play a part.
Yeah, it's a possibility, you know. I thought that myself, you know, because it was a timing that they did it. It was a hell of a time.
Look, all that dancing and take that. He better pray. I told you I escaped. I got out of it. I got about that shit. And I'm saying all he got is hope and a prayer right now. That's it.
That's it, bro. I appreciate you calling in, though, Slacks.
For sure. You know I'm calling you. You know I'm fucking with you, Playboy.
Appreciate you calling in, bro.
All right, we'll talk.
If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button.
Slavic said that at the heart of sex trafficking, right, the heart of the sex trafficking counts, and also by extension the racketeering conspiracy, because remember, that whole charge is built upon the idea that Sean Combs operated a criminal enterprise that was built upon a pattern of abuse of women, and one of the underlying predicate crimes of this criminal association, this criminal enterprise, is sex trafficking. So sex trafficking is the heart of it. She said something very critical. She said, quote, "We're not asking you to find that every single freak-off or every single hotel night was sex trafficking. Cassie and Jane both have long relationships with the defendant that have ups and downs. They both told you that they were willing to try freak-offs at the beginning and were open to possibly doing them again. And even though they both repeatedly testified about not wanting to have freak-offs, there may have been some instances where the elements of sex trafficking aren't met. But to convict the defendant of sex trafficking, you do not need to find that all of the freak-offs or even the majority of the freak-offs that he had with Cassie or Jane were the product of force, fraud, or coercion. As I expect the judge will instruct you, you only need to find that the elements of sex trafficking are met on one occasion during the period charged in the indictment." By the way,
so now, do y'all think that them women was trafficked? Because that is something now that they saying that it doesn't have to be on every occasion. It only needed to be one time that she was saying she ain't want to do it. So we know she was with it from the door now. But I'm wondering if it was a time in there that she was like, I don't want to do this. So is that gonna be Diddy's fate? Because at the time when they wasn't with it, and he was like, let's do it. He said, and the crazy part is that the video is totally separate from the trial, but they using it to paint the picture of his character. The judge shouldn't have allowed that. Hey, yo, I agree on that. I totally agree. I totally agree. Why are you using something to paint the picture, but you're not charging me for that because the statute of limitations? This is when I say they play dirty. That right there, honestly, might be an appeal issue for him. Y'all allowed evidence in that I wasn't charged for to paint a picture about something else that I was charged for. But I tell you, they played dirty, man. I think a lot of people would have looked at the case different if they would have never seen that video. Being for real. He said Diddy had a 30-year run with breaking the law and paying people to get out of criminal charges. He can sit down for 5 or 10 years. Diddy was living like a kingpin. I understand he was living like a kingpin, but you know, you don't think he deserved a fair trial? At the same time, you think that he still can be, railroaded because of the things he got away with? Because some people think like because he got away with certain things that this is his karma is catching up to him. But is that fair? If you was in that situation, right, and you got away with things and you did whatever you did, you think that it's fair for you to pile everything from the past onto what's going on now for you to be convicted and sit down? Let me know on that one. He said, see, that's what I was saying. All it takes is one. You know what I'm saying? It's like pimping. She can go out, she can go get the money for years, but if she comes and says, I can't do it no more, don't want to, and you make her, that's it. He said they want him bad, even if the law needs to break the law to do it. Like, I agree. And I say, like, prosecutors, they can't be charged with anything. They not charging the prosecutors with nothing. Straight up. They got immunity. They not being charged with anything. Straight up. They can break the law to get a conviction. Straight up. They can put things there. They can make it look like something. You can even know they doing something wrong. They not going to be charged because their job is to get people convicted. And I really think that that's foul, and that gives them leverage to play the way they want to play. Yeah. And if you've been in a situation with prosecutors and how they play dirty, like, you'll think about it like, damn, play fair, man. Why is it designed that y'all get to cheat and we can't? Y'all get to cheat the game. Straight up. Man, listen, the line is open, man. Call in and let me know how you feel. I just feel like they be cheating the game. They know what they be doing, and they ain't got no problem with cheating. If they gotta make something look a certain way to fit their narrative They gonna do it because the whole goal is who can make the jury believe what they're saying. Straight up. That's their whole goal. Who can make the jury believe what they saying? And they gonna do whatever. Straight up. Yeah. They gonna do whatever. But I know on some real, right? We seeing like now, like people paying attention that haven't been through, the court system, see that they play dirty. Like you see it. If you ain't never know the game they play is dirty. Like they all working together. You know what I mean? You the outsider. You know what I'm saying? You the outsider in the game. SBGB TV, it's a live call-in show. State your name, where you calling in from.
Hey, this is Poncho. What's up, homie?
What's going on with you, Poncho?
All right. I'm in the Bay Area.
Yes, sir.
It's a business checking you out. This is a good segment, man. And just to answer some of your questions, in my opinion, the picture is so big about him being in court as far as people who haven't been in that system have no idea what them people do, like you were saying, right?
Right.
They take the law, break the law, they write the law. So like you said, they take it and they'll break it to convict you. And his money, I think, will come into play if he is granted an appeal, because the way the trial is going, trials usually have fluidity about it. The process kind of, it goes. It's not too many hiccups. This is a high-profile case. This is a circus, homie.
Yeah, I agree.
This is like YSL New York.
In the feds.
Straight up.
Yeah.
So, but what they can do to him, with them 12 people, I think they will convict him, but I think some charges he might get convicted of less. I'll give him a 60-40 on the hung jury. It's just because it's just been so many spectacles, and I think New Yorkers are very sharp about just celebrities in court. This is something they're used to. They're used to the whatever from whatever side. So I'll say this in his benefit, that because it has been a spectacle and there has been unanswered questions from unanswered people, like, you guys aren't going to put them up. And then for Diddy, it's been like, he came in on a high horse. He leaving on. I'm not calling nobody. I didn't do it. That's his attitude. He's not. So to his benefit, they can say this is how we pretty much know him. I think the witnesses got in their way. The texts and things from the witnesses and the acts, any sane person can say, no, I'm cool, I'm gone. They didn't. You know what I mean? So there goes I'm just thinking how a person who's not into any of that would think.
They made it seem like it was more victims than it was. Because they told us it was 100 and some people that was, victims. And then we get 2 people and we see that it was a time frame where they was involved and they was willing to do it. So I think it's a lot of conflicting statements going on. And, I don't think everybody going to agree. It's a possibility that they can, but I think when you really look at it, it's like, man, was he running a criminal organization or was he just a super bona fide freak?
that did some foul shit that they too much didn't charge him. I think it's the latter, like you said. I can just speak for myself. I've been to trial one time. Yeah, you are, and I had to, I felt, get up on the stand and speak for myself because I didn't have any witness. I called witnesses, but they didn't show up. You know how it go.
Yeah.
And so I felt that when we place, when the average person doesn't know, when you place yourself in the grasp of that justice system, the game is on. You have your money got to be so long, and the favors got to be so. There has to be so many things to go right, and then and it's just the average person doesn't have that. And when they get you up in there, damn,
they got unlimited resources.
Oh man, and yeah, you all you have is hope, right? So I know when I was waiting for I had a trial. It lasted 2 days, a day and a half, really. They came back. I thought I had some kind of, but yeah, when I look back, there was no way in the world. And my victim was incarcerated. So I'm thinking, what did they tell the victim?
Did the victim testify?
Yeah, the victim testified, but was incarcerated.
Okay.
So I'm in my mind, I'm like, they have there's something that I can't see. You see what I'm saying? This was my first time being incarcerated, but there's something that I can't see, that they can let this person come in that's incarcerated as a victim in my case and convict me. All 12 jurors. I'm like, nah, this is big. This is something, you know what I mean? No matter what, I can't. There's something that there's already in place, is what I'm saying. That's where I think they'll get them on some, but on just actual looking at them tapes and hearing what they said, it's too confusing for the average person, because the first thing I think the average person, and I'll end it with this, will say, well, why did they get involved with that guy? I can understand maybe once or twice, but hey, they went on for years. I think that's where the prosecution is going to lose at.
Yeah, that sounds something to think about.
And no matter how much money you got in America, black, white, Asian, no matter how much money you gotta go sit down. Bill Gates, he sits down. You see these people with the super rich money, they know there is a script. It really is. It's called go sit down somewhere. We all know Diddy couldn't sit down. It was a matter of to me, it was like, damn, he had this long of a run.
Super long running, always in the middle of shit.
Yeah, you can have a long run, but you gotta get along to go along. You can't do. Well, you can, and this is what happened though. But I'm waiting on it. Salute to the chat. Salute to you, Jeezy.
I appreciate you calling in, bro.
One.
If you haven't already, hit that like button. Smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button, man. Share this live. What's going on, Too Much? Yeah. So, Diddy is in a hot seat. He's in a situation. But it's a lot for the jury to process. It's a lot. And it could be somebody in the jury that's like, hold up, man. Nah. I ain't going with it. I can't go with it. I see where he went wrong with this, but now I'm looking at it like this. If you get somebody in there to get to thinking, right, and say, all right, he was wrong for what happened, him putting his hands on Cassie. But why wasn't he charged for that but they're using this right here to paint the picture to make us want to find him guilty. Like, why wasn't he charged? This tape was that long ago. Statute of limitations ran out, but y'all presenting this tape like y'all should have charged him with this, but y'all didn't. You know, somebody might be thinking like, y'all knew about this. Y'all just didn't charge him because who he was, and maybe he was working for y'all and y'all didn't charge him for that. Now that y'all want him out the way, now y'all want to show it to us. When I'm sure them people been following Diddy and paying attention to Diddy for years. You know, when you rich like that, the feds is watching you. They watching you. They paying attention to you. They know about a lot of shit. Straight up. We see how these jokers that's running around the internet doing certain things, and it's in the light, and the feds know, and they don't pick them up. Somebody like Diddy, they knew the shit he was into. It's like, why now and then use all this? Y'all knew what it was. But then they make it seem like because these people are so rich that we can't go after them. Nah. If y'all want to paint a picture of somebody that's rich like they doing Diddy now, y'all can paint the picture. It's like y'all just choose not to, but then y'all present it to the world and y'all want the world to go along with you. It's like, what was your agenda though? You could have been came with all this shit. This shit, it ain't like you saying this shit just happened last year. Y'all saying this shit happened years ago. Why didn't y'all been come with this? So those type of things would be the things that I would think about. What year did this stuff happen? So you mean to tell me this shit happened in 2019 and we in 2025 and y'all just coming to get him? Like, this is what I would be thinking about. You know what I mean? Me just being real. If I was on the jury, yeah, he could be wrong. Yeah, he did some things he wasn't supposed to do. But why didn't y'all get him then? I'm looking at it like, I'm not trying to say I'm going to find this man guilty to fulfill y'all agenda. Now, I wonder, do people think about it like that? Is the jury supposed to find this man guilty because they need to fulfill the agenda of whoever wanted this to take place? Because why didn't y'all want it to take place before? Y'all knew about this shit. That's where I'm at with it. Y'all could have been on top of this. But this wasn't something y'all wanted to do. Nah. But just so happenly now, y'all overwhelmingly ready to get this conviction. Y'all want to get this done. Nah. I'm just looking at it, you know, all the way around the board. Just being real. You know, some people just looking at it like, oh, he charged with a crime, he need to go to jail. But ain't nobody assessing when these crimes happen and why did they just want to pursue it. Straight up. When did these crimes happen? So you mean to tell me they happened 5, 6 years ago? 3 years ago? And y'all just want to do it now? It took y'all 3 years to investigate this right here? Like, man, yeah. Nah, man. I ain't going for it, man. Yeah, I ain't going for it. It's just certain things my mind go different. You know what I mean? Everybody, you know, got different ways, you know, and reasons why they think about things. But I start thinking deep. You know, when I start thinking about shit, I'm like, well, what about this? Why is this? What happened to this? So you mean to tell me that this happened this long ago and y'all using this for what you saying that happened a couple years ago? So y'all piecing things together to paint a picture for me that's always scattered out, that y'all knew was going on, but now y'all want to present this to us for what? Now this is another agenda. Now he might be guilty of certain things, but what is the agenda? Is the agenda to convict him for what he did wrong, or to get him out the way? That's what I'm thinking, right? Is the agenda to convict him for what he did wrong, or get him out the way? Like, because y'all could have been got him for what y'all saying he did wrong. But when we see certain things, it's like, y'all want to get the nigga out the way. Straight up. Y'all want to get him out the way. And they going to be sick if it don't do what they want to do. You know what I'm saying? They going to feel some type of way. Straight up. I ain't going for it either. I believe all involved wanted something from Diddy and was well aware of how Diddy was and had choices. Like, yo, you know, that would be a question if I was a jury member that I would have sent back. I would have been like, well, listen, the charges that we see here, are they something that we need to focus on for what he did, or is it something else he did for y'all to bring these charges up? We want to ask that. You know what I'm saying? That's the question I want to ask. To stir the pot up. You know what I mean? But what they expect is, right, to put some people straight up. This is what they do now. I mean, I just got to be real, right? They expect to put people that have no idea of the law. And we present some things to you, and we paint a picture to you, and we want you to agree with us. You understand what I'm saying? This is how I see it. They expect people that have no knowledge of the law at all. I'm talking about none. Don't even understand how to take a traffic ticket to trial. All they understand is, oh, I got a ticket, I got to pay the ticket. They don't even understand that if you get a traffic ticket, right, and you go to JP court for your traffic ticket, right, and you get found guilty of your traffic ticket, you can appeal your traffic ticket and get a jury. They don't even know this shit though. But you want them to judge a case on somebody's entire life and expect, oh, because I said this to you and I painted this to you. Like, people don't boost things up and add things to make things look a certain way. So, you know, when I'm looking at shit, you know, this come from my experiences, you know what I mean? We all can say, all right, he's guilty. He beat Cassie. He's guilty. But why y'all ain't get him when he did that shit? You're not going to be able to convince me, right, that the feds didn't know this shit. I can't be convinced. I'm sure Diddy's phones was being monitored. I'm sure somebody around him was in touch with the feds and then told him about this shit. I'm sure. But it's like when they present certain things, they want you to believe certain things. And just because they saying it, it's like, oh yeah. And then they say it a certain way to make you think like, oh, that's how. Nah. I got questions and I want answers. Why now? Why not when it happened? Huh? So, you know, I think he got some appeal issues behind that. I'm just being real. I think he got some appeal issues behind that. And, you know, the game that they play is dirty, you know. And what I do understand with that game that they play, when they got you in the chokehold for that game, you want to cry out for help, right? You want somebody to help you, and all the people that's judging you, right? You ain't got nobody to help, man. It's you against them. You know, are you going to study and research and try to find your fight, or you just going to lay down? You know? So, are you just going to lay it down, or you going to fight back? Because it's jokers that they'll just lay it down, man. I take this plea. Or you going to fight? I'm saying, I'm a fight. I mean, I'm a fight. That's just me. You know, they charge me, I'm fighting, man. I'm not laying it down. I'm not going for it because I know they play dirty.
By the way, you know how there's no cameras allowed in the courtroom, there's no recording devices allowed? It's frustrating, to say the least, because how great would it have been to have something like Claude Nopin in the courtroom with us, right? This tiny wearable AI-powered device that she can try the Claude Nopin right now. And right now, she went on to say, quote, "You don't have to find that all force, threats of force, coercion, or fraud were used. It can be any of these illegal means alone, and it can be any of these illegal means in combination. And this is an obvious point, but the fact that a victim consents once to a commercial sex act, that doesn't mean that she consented every time. You only need to find that one of these hotel nights, or freak-offs, right, meets the elements of sex trafficking here." So Elizabeth, she really doubled down on that. That was her getting in front of the times when it appeared that Jane and Cassie consented, but also clarifying what this case is about, right? You just need to find that one time. That was important, right?
Yeah, that was definitely really important, Jesse. And it was something that was surprising to me because if you think back to just the summary witnesses and the flight summary charts, according to the government, there are several alleged instances of sex trafficking. But again, to your point, Jesse, Christy Slavic really kind of telling the jury you really only need to find one instance of sex trafficking to find the defendant guilty. But as it pertains to Jane, Christy Slavic really kind of took it piece by piece by piece, kind of really laying out the different stages of how this turned out to be kind of alleged sex trafficking. And so the first stage was the drugs, the outfits, putting pornography on together. The second stage being the fantasy talk, and that was the fantasy talk as it comes to Sean Combs.
But let's be real, man. Them broads wanted to get high, man. Like, come on, man. They wanted to get high, man. We all know in that world, they want to get high. It's not a sober world when you at the top and rich. Come on, man. We know this. You at the top and rich, they all popping shit. They all tooting up their damn nose. Everybody is getting lit. Straight up, they promoting this shit in the music. Everybody's getting lit. So you want me to believe that they didn't want to get lit? Nah, man. I can't go for that, man. Straight up. I'm not going for that he made them get on. Nah, they wanted to get on. They wanted to indulge. Yo, they probably was going to get it by themselves as well. Yo, I'm going to get something. I got this. But they make it seem like that the man provided everything in every way. Nah, man. Hell no. There's plenty of people that like to get on and they want to bring it to the table. There's plenty of men and women that want to roll up and say, yo, I got mine. I got mine. Even though they was popping and, you know, tooting up their nose and all that, there's plenty of people that come to the table with their own shit, man. But they make it seem like, you know, nobody came to the table with their shit that he's the one they got it from. And that nigga had a connect, but damn, you can't make it seem like, you know what I'm saying? Crazy, man. Shit be crazy. And it's crazy that, you know what I mean, the people that you are around, you know what I mean, you got to worry about it, though.
Fantasizing about Jane doing things with other men in front of him. And so Christy Slavic even said during her closing argument that Jane thought it was going to be just this one-time thing, that it was going to be.
Yeah, Cosby was different, but Cosby took a different route. He admitted to certain things for the settlement, and they came back and used the stuff against him. You know, Diddy was an open book with him though. Hey, listen, we getting lit. You with it or what? We getting lit. They all knew it was shit everywhere. We gonna pop this. We gonna throw this back. We getting lit. Now these broads was doing the thing where they was getting so trashed that they had to use the IV. After the first time that you get so trashed that you had to use an IV to bring yourself back in line, would you do that again? Like, on some real stuff. If you used an IV to get yourself back in line after getting trashed, who wants to put a needle in them, right? Now you got to put a needle in you to bring you back in line. You need a needle now. You sitting there getting fluids in your body. You gonna go do that shit again? You mean to say that they was forced to do that again? Nah, you wanted to do that. Yeah, hell no. You're not gonna say, I know I can't function and I gotta take an IV to get back. Man, that's a decision. I'ma just be real. That's a decision, man. You chose to go back and get lit again. You wanted to get lit. You knew we was gonna have to pop this IV and get this shit right afterwards. You could have said no to that if it was that exhausting to you, right? Why you do it again? Man, I'm thinking about all that if I'm on the jury. I'm literally thinking about all that. Like, straight up. Why am I going to go here and pop again? All night, 4 days straight. Like, come on, man. They was with that. They was with that, man.
The first hotel night, that would be it. But then it just kind of set set forth their entire relationship, and that within a few months of just doing these hotel nights, she wanted them to stop. But even the third stage, she had pointed out, was using payments of Jane's rent as leverage. And so there were just several instances of sex trafficking that they particularly talked about. And again, that being the prosecution, where they point to specific instances such as the sobriety party that happened in October of 2023, where Jane tried to go do a hotel night without using drugs. And then she ended up throwing up between escort number 2 and escort number 3. And then, of course, one of the big things that the prosecution really talked about was a clear point of sex trafficking in their eyes was what had happened on June 18th, June 19th of 2024. So just last year, or it's just been a year now, but in terms of when Sean Combs was over at Jane's residence, there was a physical altercation, and then she was allegedly forced to do a hotel night at her home with another escort. And this was after she was beaten, after she was kicked and dragged, and other instances. And so as far as it comes to count 4, those were just the big points that the prosecution alleged were sex trafficking. Obviously, there was a lot more that they wanted to talk about, but in terms of just even kind of the sexually explicit videos of the hotel nights / the freak offs, the Wild King nights, whatever you want to call them, I remember there was a point kind of as we were wrapping up the case overall that the defense was really kind of showing the jury these sexually explicit videos. However, the prosecution is saying that Jane might have been on this liquid Molly, and or / MDMA that was kind of liquefied, or it was mixed in with water, and then it was like kind of squirted into her mouth, and that's why she may have sounded enthusiastic, or it might have appeared that she was consensual in these particular sexually explicit videos. But again, the government kind of pointing out that this was a clear instance of Jane being under the under the influence of drugs, and maybe that's why she appeared to be consenting or enthusiastic as far as just her demeanor on these sexually explicit videos that, of course, we in the gallery didn't see. Only the jury has seen it, and the parties and the witness and the defendant, of course,
and there was a number of text messages from Jane where she is showing her reluctance to engaging in this, whether she was upset, she was jealous, whether she was upset how she was being treated. It was clear from messages that she took issue with these nights. And look, with Cassie, if you talk about whether or not there are clear-cut examples more than any others of sex trafficking, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the 2016 Intercontinental Hotel attack video, right? Because she claims that she was leaving a freak off. Maybe it hadn't been completed, but then there was a sex worker in the room. She's being dragged back in the direction of the room. I think that can hit and check a lot of the elements of sex trafficking. Also checking a lot of the sex trafficking elements are the allegation when she was on an airplane with Sean Combs. He sits next to her, shows her sex tapes. She feels he threatens to release them. That's a form of a threat, form of intimidation. There's a travel component. They land. He demands a freak off. He gets a freak off. That also checks a lot of the boxes. And by the way, they also use forensic psychologist Dr. Dawn Hughes' explanations, right, throughout the closing argument to explain some of the behavior of Jane and Cassie, right? That was very strategic.
Yeah, and I think it made a lot of sense because Dr. Dawn Hughes' testimony, kind of similar to Cassie's, was so early on in the case that I think it was a good reminder for the jury to hear, why didn't she leave? Well, it's because Dr. Dawn Hughes testified that, of course, a lot of abuse victims don't necessarily leave their partners right away because they want to go back to remembering the times where everything was good and they were in love, and that a lot of victims normally do that. And I think that's the big question is, why don't these victims leave? And I think Dr. Dawn Hughes did a great job explaining that. And I think Christy Slavic also did a great job and really kind of sprinkling in little pieces here and there of Dr. Dawn Hughes' testimony in terms of why these women didn't leave, why they continue to stay, why they felt obligated to do these kind of sexually explicit acts, these sexual acts during these freak-offs or hotel nights and that sort. But I think it was really great that she really went back to the forensic psychologist and really kind of put together maybe just the pieces or the parts that maybe people were kind of wondering in their head as in terms of why. And so she did a great job really kind of sprinkling in here and there why that may have happened.
Going to the racketeering conspiracy charge, arguably the most complex charge, the top charge, carries life in prison. When you heard Prosecutor Slavic talking about this and why they believe they have proven that there is in fact a criminal enterprise, this association of Combs' inner circle, that they all had to serve the common purpose, which was to protect him, to serve him, that they all agreed to commit underlying predicate crimes like drug distribution, kidnapping, bribery, arson. What stood out to you as some of the best arguments for why, in fact, there was an enterprise, why there was a criminal agreement?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it kind of stood out to me. And the way that the government was really kind of explaining how they've kind of met their case in terms of all the predicate acts, including drug distribution, kidnapping, arson, bribery, sex trafficking, forced labor, witness tampering, interstate transportation for prostitution. I feel like each and every single point of those predicate acts, they really kind of explained why the defendant might be found guilty on these. But I think the ones that kind of stood out to me was obviously drug distribution. And I say drug distribution mainly because every single witness who had testified in terms of the assistants, in terms of Jane, in terms of Cassie, they really kind of talked about drugs, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, these are low amounts of drugs if you kind of think about it, but it doesn't matter. According to the prosecution, they say that drug distribution counts as delivering, passing on drugs as distribution, and they say it's a special ingredient for freak-offs, and some of the participants of kind of the alleged drug distribution were people like D-Rock, people like KK or Christina Koram, people like Fahim Muhammad. And AUSA Christy Slavic said that the first element of this is that the co-conspirator distributed the drugs. The second element being that the co-conspirator distributed the drugs knowingly. So they pointed to different drugs that have been testified about, like cocaine, meth, ketamine, oxycodone, Xanax, MDMA, GHB, 2C, and then mushrooms too. But in terms of just even distributing drugs to others, that they brought exhibits up, like exhibits including text messages from Brendan Paul to Fahim, where Brendan Paul had wrote in a particular text message, KK is aware $780 for personal Gucci items. What do we know about personal Gucci items? That they normally included drugs that were found in a Gucci bag that was normally close or on Diddy's person at all times for the most part. And then in terms of just other exhibits between text message chains between Guido and Fahim. Guido was an alleged drug dealer that was often used, and Fahim was one of Diddy's personal security guards, where the text message said, hey there, Puff has a balance of $450. So I think kind of proving that element, even in terms of just the Combs enterprise agreeing to distribute drugs, where there were messages from D-Rock where D-Rock had said, he sent a text where he said, I need some for bro being Sean Combs, and then the some being, drugs. And then Christina Coram, too. The prosecution really kind of pointed out that Christina Coram knew that Jane was taking drugs while she was doing these hotel nights, because there was one point in one instance that they pointed out where Jane was kind of convulsing on the beach from sand after kind of a really intense drug effect, and that Christina Coram was really aware of this, and that she kind of helped Jane while she was kind of having this reaction out on the beach, out on the sand. But I think another big point, Jesse, that really stood out to me is obviously kidnapping, and the government pointed to three different instances of kidnapping, one being January of 2009, where Cassie's face was stomped on and she was held at a hotel, allegedly against her will, where Sean Combs got jealous because she was talking to a producer, and then Cassie drunkenly punched Sean Combs in the face, that he assaulted her very brutally, and that he forced her to stay in a hotel for a week, and that people like Roger Bonds, who was Diddy's then security guard, wouldn't let her leave. She wanted to go home to her mom, but she was unable to. She was pretty much trapped in this hotel during this particular instance. Then they bring it to a few years earlier here in New York City in 2004, where Capricorn Clark was forced to take a lie detector test for days on days on days after some jewelry went missing. And of course, the December of 2011, I should say, where Capricorn Clark was taken by gunpoint over to Kid Cudi's home. The government kind of pointing to those being clear instances of kidnapping too. And so if you think about that.
So when they say that, right, 2004, 2009, and 2011. We in 2025. That's what I'm talking about, though. Y'all talking about stuff from 2004, 2009, and 2011. Why didn't y'all charge that man in 2013? Like, why didn't y'all charge the man in 2006? Why didn't y'all charge the man in 2010? Why didn't y'all charge the man? So all the things that they using, y'all just wanting to charge him, and this shit was 15 years ago. Shit like that. 20 years ago. Like, come on, man. That's when I say that the system be fufafi. Straight up. That's like letting somebody do all this stuff, and then when you get mad at them, now you want to hold them accountable. This is how I see it. Y'all let the man do all this shit, and now somebody mad at him. Now he got to be held accountable. Y'all could have been held him accountable for this shit. Y'all know the details of this shit. They know details. Y'all could have been charged that, man. Man, that shit be fufafi, man.
In context, that's two predicate acts right there if the jury kind of comes to that conclusion too. But there were other instances that I think they did a great job really kind of spelling out different examples of why the defendant might have been found guilty on these different kind of acts.
Yeah, no, and you're right. They only need to find two underlying predicate acts. So yes, was there a criminal conspiracy? Was there a criminal agreement? Was there a criminal enterprise? And were there two underlying predicate acts that they agreed to commit? So you laid out drug distribution, you laid out kidnapping. We didn't even get into Eddie Garcia and the hotel tape and bribery, the $100,000 that was allegedly paid to make sure that that tape never saw the light of day. And I agree with you, the argument that all of the assistants, or a majority of the assistants, or at least Christina Coram, knew what was going on and knew what was going on behind closed doors, and everybody was on the same page. I think that's key. Now, you talk about the underlying predicate crimes. One of them, my understanding at least, is also an independent charge, transportation to engage in prostitution. Those are two charges that he faces, but I believe they're also part of the racketeering. So I will tell you, I think this is the strongest series of charges they have against Diddy, carries up to 10 years in prison. I thought it was important for the prosecutor to say, hey, you don't need force or fraud or coercion. They could all consent. It's still a crime. Really focusing what on, Elizabeth? The trail of money, the Amex statements, Combs' texts, his voice notes, his team arranging, right? Really putting him at the center of transporting men and Cassie and Jane for the purposes of sex work.
Yeah, and to your point, Jesse, I think also the government had to really kind of...
So they don't need to be held accountable when they was transporting them? This is what I say, man. Cassie, Jane Doe, they was transporting as well. They should be held accountable, man. The system should hold everybody accountable. Why are y'all just picking and choosing that y'all want to hold him accountable and not them? They was transporting too. This is why people be breaking the law the way they do. Because they feel like if I do certain things, I could just say this person did it and get out of it. Hold everybody accountable, man. Yeah, hold everybody accountable. And I guarantee you people will be mindful. But they done built the system off allowing people to do things if you say somebody else did it. So now it keeps the cycle going. This is why the cycle of crime continues to go, because people know I can shift the blame. If everybody is held accountable, people will start thinking, hold up. But people think, man, I'm going to go ahead and say this about this person. I'm going to get off. I got a chance. I'm going to take the risk. They'll be more mindful if they didn't have so much room to get out of shit.
Have explained that just because these entertainers or these escorts don't necessarily call themselves prostitutes, that these still are acts of prostitution, whether or not they're calling themselves prostitutes or sex workers or not. And so in terms of count 3 and 5, again, that being transportation to engage in prostitution, I kind of go back to the flight summary charts where the government had a whole long list in chart form of just the different flights that were taken out, the money that was spent, and who was the account holder kind of behind it, either being Sean Combs or it being Jane, who had purchase entertainers' flights.
Yeah, they trying to say it's Diddy call to make him happy, but that was a choice. You know, that was a choice to make Diddy happy. You have a choice. You know what I'm saying? Them bros, they had a choice. You wanted that rich brother, so your choice was to do certain things. And like, come on, man. People gotta not be so eager to deal with somebody that's rich. So because people that's rich attract people, their standards that they gotta uphold are, you gotta make sure that nobody's attracted to you. Because then if they're attracted to you because you got money, then you're responsible. That's what I'm saying. If you rich and people are attracted to you because of your money, you gotta uphold the level of standards to make sure that you keep them at bay because you rich. Nah, stay over there. I'm rich. Don't come next to me. Nah, you do it. I'm rich. Nah, that be the BS. Yeah, that be the BS. They know that the human mind is easily influenced because they influence our mind. We influence because of the things they put out there. So they feel like everybody's influenced by a rich lifestyle, that they're willing to do whatever to be a part of the rich lifestyle. So if you are living a rich lifestyle, you're responsible for everybody else. And you're held accountable for any decision that somebody make that's around you.
out. However, she would be reimbursed by Sean Combs. And so there was one particular example. It was from August 26th of 2009, where Sean Combs coordinated with Jules, and Jules notably was the escort inside the hotel room during the March 2016 incident at the Intercontinental Hotel. But just that in this particular one, going back to August of 2009, that Sean Combs was coordinating with Jules to get him to New York City. So the jury was able to see flight records. That a flight was $419.61, and then it also included a limo service for $220. And there were even points where Sean Combs had texted Jules he'll tip him more if he can make it to New York City, because Jules is from LA. So there we go, transporting him from Los Angeles, California, all the way to New York City. And so the government also pointing out that the defendant paid for other escorts like Clayton Howard, aka Dave, to fly him from New York City to Los Angeles. And again, showing those flight summary charts where all the records are really kind of laid out there. There were text messages, including from Sean Combs to Bridget when he was in a relationship with Jane, where he was texting Bridget from Cowboys for Angels, so no longer Garen. It was Bridget who was kind of the point of contact, where Sean Combs is saying that he didn't want one particular escort to feel tired because he was traveling from Vegas to Los Angeles, and he sent a text message saying, LOL, damn, we don't want a tired situation, feel me. And then Bridget responded, Reggie is never tired, because that was the particular entertainer or escort that they planned on flying out to Los Angeles. And then the government pointing out that Cabral was also someone that was used quite often. He's from Atlanta. However, he was flown to New York City. And so there were just different points. And I think they made a lot of strong messages that were used kind of against Sean Combs in a way, like one particular audio message that said, I want the most wild king sex room in Vegas. And then Christina Coram had responded, will Paul be there? So again, kind of pointing to the alleged co-conspirators being in the know of who was going to be there, what type of escorts were going to be used. And of course, Paul was one that was used often, going back to Cassie's relationship with Sean Combs and to Jane's relationship. And so kind of towards the end, the government was like, even KK facilitated the travel for escorts too.
Again, I think that
they ain't charged KK though. What happened with that? They ain't charged KK though. Y'all think they gonna come charge KK later? Or they just using these things because they only got one target in mind?
those are pretty straightforward, but we'll see. And let's talk about the defense now. The defense's closing argument. Okay, so this was delivered by Mark Agnifilo, the lead counsel in this case. And I will tell you one of the parts that stood out to me, really jumping on the idea. Okay, so the prosecution's agreeing not every sexual episode of Cassie or Jane is sex trafficking. Mark Agnifilo says, if we're at freak-off number 75, and 75 of them have been consensual, what would have to happen if freak-off 76 to say, now it's sex trafficking? Really focusing on that jump, right? Like, now that's a federal crime? I think that's a good point. It gives the jury pause, no? Aside from all of the text messages from the alleged victims where they express their love for Sean Combs, they stay in touch with him, they're setting up these sexual events. It does become a point, you know, we're supposed to say everything was consensual and then it's sex trafficking. Was that a standout moment to you?
Yeah, it was a lot of standout moments from the defense's closing argument, right? So, for example, Mark Agnifilo, by the way, everyone, when you're seeing him in action giving the closing argument for the defense, it's very opposite from the prosecution, where he is just really animated. He's going back and forth, walking back and forth. Sometimes there were points he was away from the microphone, so you could barely hear him. He's using poster boards. He's using paper forms of text exhibits, really kind of putting on a lot of demonstratives. But right off the bat, he was saying this trial is a tale of two trials. First trial is the witnesses, the videos, the text messages, the evidence. And the second trial is just what is being told to the jury by the prosecution. And so Mark Agnifilo saying right off the top that this case is badly exaggerated. It's made up, in other words. Those were literally the words he used. And then when he was talking,
I agree that it's exaggerated. Yeah, I agree. I hope he says something to him about why wasn't he charged. If they felt that these things was done, why wasn't he charged then? What is he being charged for now? Y'all got all this so-called evidence from 20 years ago, but y'all just want to put it in his face. Now, y'all want to get him out the way. That was the mission.
talking about drugs. He said it's personal use drugs, nothing else. He says that the evidence shows that it's swingers and threesomes. But I think one big thing, Jesse, is that I think really from the defense's perspective, they were really kind of driving the point that, yes, Sean Combs has done bad things, right? But they say, is it sex trafficking? So, for example, really kind of pointing to that they think it's a domestic violence issue. That's really the issue, especially when it comes to count 2, that being related to Cassie. But one thing I noted during his defense closing is that he brought the CNN video up, and he was kind of talking about a particular Instagram post that Cassandra Ventura Fine had made after this video was released and after she got an outpouring of support, where she had said that domestic violence is the issue. So the defense really kind of using her words against her, where they were like, okay, well, she didn't say sex trafficking was the heart of the issue. She didn't say that this was the heart of the issue. She specifically said that domestic violence is the issue. And so the defense said that Cassie could have said sex trafficking. She could have said coercion and running away from freak-offs was the issue. But Mark Agnifilo told the jury that, again, Cassie believed it to be domestic violence. And so the defense saying that they weren't going to be putting up a bunch of charts and text messages, etc. But I think we're kind of trying to drive the point too that Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs were in a loving relationship, and at points it was toxic, something that's kind of been a theme throughout their cross-examination too of particular witnesses. And then even as it came to Jane and just kind of the allegations Jane has made, the defense really kind of pointing out that Jane is still getting her rent paid for by Sean Combs, that he had kind of helped her when she was going through like a bad child support type of situation, that her child's father wasn't pulling his weight in terms of just the money that he was giving to her and their child together, and that it was Sean Combs who stepped up. He was the one who provided the roof over their head. He was the one that continues to pay for her.
So she said 50 abandoned her and Diddy saved her. Oh, she wasn't going nowhere. 50 abandoned her, allegedly, and Puff saved her. But now, she was in the worst situation ever. Nah. These bras wanted to deal with a rich man. Y'all could have been regular. Y'all could have fell back. Y'all put yourself in certain situations because who y'all wanted to deal with. Y'all could have dealt with a nigga working 9 to 5. Y'all didn't want to. Y'all wanted to go over there and live the party life and do things that they do in that world. 50 didn't want her. Threw her back in the ocean. Puff was having his way with her.
Rent for her rent even to this day, but also for her lawyer even to this day too. And I think what also is interesting, Jesse, is in my mind, I'm wondering, does the jury kind of want to know why didn't the defense put up any type of witnesses? Because in terms of just them going back and kind of using, I guess, the witnesses' words against them in a type of way that these were all, again, government witnesses. These aren't defense witnesses or anything like that, because as we know, the defense didn't put up any witnesses. So I wonder, does that kind of go through their head as they're listening to all of this? Because it really was kind of going back and forth between mainly Cassie and Jane for the most part.
It might. On the other hand, they could say, no, the defense thoroughly cross-examined these witnesses, confronted them about problematic texts and Instagram posts or social media posts and alleged actions and staying with him. I mean, they really focused on the idea that these alleged victims could leave, and they eventually did leave, and then nothing happened to them. That's what, the defense's argument. So they might say, the defense said this is all about money. They were all out for something. They were never sex trafficked victims. It'll be curious to see what the jury thinks. And, the defense has said this is all about domestic violence. It's about love. It's about jealousy. It's not a federal crime. Real quick, because I know you have to jump in, I want to ask you a couple more things. So Agnifilo also hit upon, I think, one of the arguably weaker points of the case, right? Racketeering conspiracy. He was saying what? That Sean Combs is the only one charged here. There was no one testified that was part of a criminal enterprise. There's no evidence anyone that was a co-conspirator, including Christina Coram, his former chief of staff. Did you feel that that was a key moment, really striking at the heart of racketeering conspiracy? There's no criminal agreement. There's no criminal enterprise?
Right. I think it definitely is, because even Mark Agnifilo was saying things along the lines of, other celebrities, they use their assistants to go get them stuff. They're not celebrities who just walk into CVS. In terms of the security even, the security all has firearms. firearms because they are security guards. They're professional guards. They have the license to carry, all of those things. And even just kind of bringing back just the HSI raids where Mark Agnifilo is kind of like, well, the guns just miraculously were all just, they were all brought out. No one knew where they came from. They could have been under the children's bed, all of that stuff. But in terms of just the RICO conspiracy and some of the alleged co-conspirators, Mark Agnifilo said that everyone needs a KK, that KK was somebody who was always Sean Combs' like right-handed woman, that type of thing. And I will say when Mark Agnifilo said that everyone needs a KK, I did see Sean Combs over at the defense table kind of nodding his head along. But Mark Agnifilo saying that he's not charged with racketeering, but racketeering conspiracy. And he points out that the government never called a co-conspirator to the witness stand. So the defense kind of even pointing out the particular incident with Cassie and...
Now that right there that right, the lawyer definitely said something right there. Hold up. They never called a co-conspirator to the witness stand. Hold up. Now y'all saying this is the RICO now. He's supposed to be in this RICO and they're supposed to be co-conspirators. They never called a co-conspirator to the stand.
Carrie Morgan, both who had testified during this trial, but about the hammer incident where Sean Combs had allegedly come over to, I believe it was either Cassie's apartment with a hammer and that he was like kind of threatening her. But the defense was pointing out that during this time, Cassie and Carrie Morgan, they didn't call police to, turn in Sean Combs. What they ended up doing was calling Christina Coram and D-Rock. And then Mark Agnifilo said, did anyone say that KK or D-Rock was a co-conspirator? He said that the government is making it sinister, that he has personal security, and says that Agnifilo also pointed out that Sean Combs isn't charged with firearms, just as an outright charge. And so in terms of just... but even in terms of just Cassie's allegation, where she said she was made to carry firearms for Sean Combs, Mark Agnifilo pointed out it was the security guard who actually gave Cassie Ventura the firearm that she had to go into, I guess, the club with, that type of thing. So really kind of saying that this isn't an enterprise, that this isn't a criminal enterprise, I should say, but that these are just people who are working for Sean Combs, who's a high-powered celebrity, that he wants his privacy, that he wants his personal time, and he should be entitled to that because this isn't a criminal act.
Raising reasonable doubt. That's what they were trying to do, and we're kind of summarizing and condensing it here. And real quick, the prosecution had a rebuttal delivered by the prosecutor, Maureen Comey, in this case, the lead prosecutor, I believe. And remember, it makes sense because this is the prosecution's case. They have to prove the charges beyond reasonable doubt. Makes sense that they get the last word. Real quick, Elizabeth, these are the things that stood out to me. One, where she highlighted, so the defense's theory is that Cassie wanted to be urinated on, that Jane wanted to have sex with a man after being beaten, that Mia wanted to be sexually assaulted, that Cassie and Jane wanted to spend days in oil with UTIs and high heels, they were strange men, basically saying Agnifilo is tossing up excuse after excuse. And also there was this other part where they basically say that these women didn't have any financial incentive to testify, right? So the idea is Cassie had already settled her lawsuit. So what is she's risking perjury in a federal trial? Mia had already settled in mediation. There's no reason for them to come forward and put on what I think she said was a show for you. Those were the two biggest points.
Man, them women was told that they needed to testify. Come on, man. Like, them women were told by the government that, hey, listen, you could be held accountable. You could be held liable. And we think it would be in your best interest to testify. Stop that, man. We already know when them people show up, especially the feds, and they talking to people that, never been through the legal system, they gonna say things to them to scare them, man. Straight up. And it's crazy to get up there and say that to a jury, like, straight up. They say things to them to scare them, to get them, they don't want to go to jail. So they going to say certain things to them, man. We know this, man. But the prosecution, they not going to say that. But if you ever had them people run up on you, if you ever had the feds pick you up, if you ever been in that kind of situation, you gonna look at it different. Straight up. The feds they act totally different. I'm gonna tell you that straight up. And this is a fact when they pick your ass up. Yeah, when they grab you up, they cocky. Straight up. It's this or this. If you see them somewhere else, they act like they cool, calm, and collective. But the feds grab you up, they cocky. Either you gonna do this or else. Or you gonna stand on all 10 and deal with whatever come down the pipeline, or you gonna side with them. This how they doing it. And they gonna scare someone that has never been in that predicament every single time. Because people that have never been in a situation, locked up, or, the feds came to see them or anything, they heard stories. It's like, yo, the feds this, their conviction rate, 98%, all this shit. They hear this shit. So the feds show up and start telling you about how major this case is, and then they start saying things. Well, he's facing life. I'm sure you don't want to be, involved as well. You know what I'm saying? You got a kid and you got your life. And that's the first thing they start talking about is your kid. You got a kid and you got a family, we wouldn't want to take you away from your family and all that shit. The best thing for you to do is, I think you should, cooperate and, help yourself. And they could be lying to you. They probably can't even hold you accountable for this shit. But this is the shit they do.
Rebuttal to me. I know you have to jump out real quick, but if you wanted 30 seconds just to respond.
Yeah, of course. And so from the prosecution rebuttal, even things like Maureen Comey saying the defense put a whole lot of energy into blaming the victims and the United States government, and pretty much kind of bringing home the point that in Sean Combs' world, he couldn't take no for an answer. So really, even at the end, Jesse, where Maureen Comey is like, the defendant thinks that he's above the law. He beat Cassie. He raped Mia. He bribed security to cover it up. In his mind, he thought he was untouchable. Who stands up to a God? He didn't think that the women would even stand up to him. And so even Maureen Comey, I think her final words were saying that the defendant is not a God, he's a person, he stands equal in the law, find him guilty. So I really think kind of driving home those points of just different instances in terms of payment for sex, racketeering conspiracy, the kidnapping of Capricorn Clark in 2011, the points of Cassie, Mia, Jane, Kid Cudi, I think really kind of bringing home those points. And to your point also, Jesse, about the prosecution saying that the victims don't have anything at stake anymore, that Cassie did get her settlement, that Mia did settle years prior to this, and that Jane has no intention on filing a lawsuit, that she doesn't even have a lawsuit kind of, filed at this point anyway either. And so I think the prosecution, especially since they had the final word and the final message to the jury, was really kind of bringing back maybe any seeds of doubt that the jury may have had after listening to the defense's closing argument, and really trying to kind of prove their case in that final message, so that way the government can say that he is guilty on all of the charges.
All right, we'll see. It's going to be in the jury's hands. Elizabeth Milne.
It's going to be in the jury's hands, and we shall see. Yeah, if you haven't smashed the like button, hit the like button. Hit that subscribe button. Yeah, and share this live. It's going to be in the jury's hands. Hold up. They said juror sent a third note. Hold up. Let's see what we got here. Jury sent a third
Now
note.
to the first day of deliberation.
They sent a third note? Hold up. Let's see what they say here.
In the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Minutes ago, jurors sent their third note of the day to the judge.
And right now, we're all just waiting and watching to see exactly what that note says. We know, meanwhile, this unfolded in the courtroom today. It's a sketch of Mr. Combs holding up a note to one of his attorneys, but it was a note number 2 from the jury that is causing quite a stir today. Jurors raising questions about one of their own.
Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson is live in Lower Manhattan now with more on this day of drama. Kimberly.
Well, and you guys mentioned that third note. It came in roughly hour 5 of deliberations. Everybody's in the courtroom right now, and as soon as we learn more, we will bring it to you. But this morning, after the jury cleared the courtroom, Sean Combs and his family gathered in prayer, holding hands for a few minutes. At the end, they applauded and spoke for some time. Now, it's a waiting game. Monday afternoon, the matriarch of the Combs family, Janice Combs, left federal court in Lower Manhattan during a lunch break. Her son Sean's fate now in the hands of a jury. Day one of deliberations began at about 11:30 a.m. The judge reminded jurors they are the, quote, sole and exclusive judges of the facts. Once behind closed doors, the jury of 8 men and 4 women picked a 4-person who, roughly 70 minutes in, sent a note to the judge reading, quote, "We are concerned Juror 25 cannot follow your honor's instructions," suggesting the judge speak with that juror. That person is a 51-year-old man, a scientist, who originally said he was familiar with the allegations. In the end, the judge said the issue was not of concern and directed the jury to continue deliberating. Considered one of the most successful producers and entrepreneurs in the hip-hop industry, prosecutors paint a much different picture of the 55-year-old. They say for 2 decades, Combs headed up a criminal organization prosecutors call, quote, Combs Enterprise, in which he, quote, abused, threatened, and coerced women into having sex with paid male escorts. 2 main prosecution witnesses, Combs' ex-girlfriends Cassie Ventura, seen here with him in 2016, and a woman who testified under the name Jane. The government says those in Combs' innermost circle, so-called, quote, loyal lieutenants and foot soldiers, catered to his every whim. Throughout the 7 weeks of testimony, jurors heard about and watched videos of so-called freak-offs or hotel nights, sometimes days-long drug-fueled sex sessions. But Combs insists he's innocent, that any and all sexual encounters were consensual. Now, there are 5 alternate jurors. The judge did send them home today, but they are not dismissed. They're essentially on standby for if and when they are needed. Again, that third note coming today during the roughly 5th hour of deliberations. When we find more information, we will bring it to you. For now, we're live in Lower Manhattan. Kimberly Richardson, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
3 notes in. Kia was popping. You know they sabotaging us, man. You know what I mean? You know they ain't sending the notifications out. I can tell when they ain't sending them out because I can see how many people be there. That's how I know they ain't sending them out. But it's all good, though. They gonna sabotage a nigga when they want to. Yeah. 3 notes in now. 3 notes in now. That right there let you know it ain't signed and sealed. 3 notes in now. Yeah. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button and share this video. Yeah. Let's see what they say. Hit that subscribe button. Yeah, they ain't sending the notifications out. They hating on the board. It's all good. We gonna keep grinding. Non-stop. Straight up.
Good evening. I'm Mike Marza. Day 1 of deliberations in the Sean Diddy Combs trial now in the books. And there were some fascinating developments on this day 1. The jury's sending 4 different notes to the judge, a couple just procedural, but a couple also with some interesting, maybe backstory to them. The first indicated that they had selected a 4-person. That is part of the process. The second, very interesting, as the jury questioned one of the jurors' ability or willingness to follow the judge's instructions. We're going to get more into that in just a moment. And then the third note was about how to understand narcotics distribution and the allegations surrounding that, something that the judge and the jury will tackle first thing tomorrow morning. The fourth note was about wrapping for the day and returning tomorrow morning. The judge saying all along that the jury will be able to make their own schedule. They finished around 5 today. We'll be back tomorrow. at 9 a.m. In just a moment, we're going to be joined by ABC News legal contributor Bernarda Villalona to dig deeper into everything that unfolded in court and during the deliberations. But first up, Darla Miles with a recap from Lower Manhattan.
Now they had a couple notes now. A couple notes. And they asking about the distribution of narcotics because they don't think that he was moving work. Straight up now. That right there let me know. They don't think the man was moving work. How can we say he was distributing narcotics? It's not adding up. It ain't making sense. Yeah, he was all getting high, but he wasn't distributing narcotics, man. Straight up. Crazy.
The first day of jury deliberations in the Sean Diddy Combs racketeering and sex trafficking trial off to an eventful start, even though it wasn't a full day. Combs' 3 adult sons and teen daughters in court today, as well as other relatives, and his 84-year-old mother, who has attended almost every day of the trial. Deliberations beginning at 11:19 after a 2-hour reading of jury instructions. All 12 jurors and 5 alternates with their eyes laser focused on the printout, seeing following back and forth on the page line by line. The 62-page document telling jurors to evaluate the evidence carefully and to resist jumping to any conclusions based on personal likes or dislikes, gut feelings or sympathies. The first note coming back quickly, which is not uncommon at all, saying, "We have elected juror number 5 as our foreperson." Then a second note after lunch saying, "We are concerned juror 25 cannot follow your honor's instructions. Can you please come out and speak with him?" The court sending a note back to the jury room, reminding them to follow his instructions to follow the law. The directive apparently helpful. After a few more hours of deliberations, the foreperson sending a third note about page 37 of jury instructions about drug distribution. That's one of the underlying crimes for the racketeering count. Deciding if giving drugs to Cassie and Jane during freak-offs was a criminal act. And while jurors only need to find that Combs coerced the 2 women into participating just one time, they have to be unanimous on which one. Judge Arun Subramanian will address the jury's question about drug distribution when deliberations resume tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. He also told jurors to return with an open mind. In Lower Manhattan, Darla Miles, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
And our thanks to Darla for that recap. Joined now by ABC News legal contributor Bernarda Villalona to talk about this day 1 of deliberations. It feels like, it's been a marathon to get here. So here we are. I want to first off talk about this juror situation this morning. So the second note, and the foreperson said, something to the effect of, you got to come get this guy because he's not following what you want him to do. What do you make of the way it was worded, one, the way it was worded, and then 2, what do you think is going on in that jury room?
So at least because that juror, the foreperson, signed that note, doesn't necessarily mean that the foreperson was the person who wrote the note, is that they are jurors that are taking their oath seriously in terms of what are their directions, what are their instructions when it comes to deliberation. But I'm so surprised that so early on that you get a note like this, because usually when it comes to jury deliberations, it can become heated. Words can be exchanged. People start screaming. I've had jury deliberations where pretty much jurors have almost gone to blows doing deliberations, because you have to think that these jurors have been together for 7-8 weeks. They've heard from 34 witnesses. They heard hours and hours of closing arguments, and then this morning they heard over 2 hours and change of jury instructions. So there's so much to talk about, and people may be stuck also in their emotions and their feelings and have already dug their foot in the sand and say that, look, this is how I feel, and maybe I'm not going to move away from that. But we don't know. The note is still very vague. I'm curious to see whether they're saying that he doesn't have the ability to follow the instructions, or is it that he's choosing not to follow the instructions? So it's either he doesn't understand, doesn't comprehend, or he's saying that I'm not willing to follow these instructions no matter what you tell me to do. But it seems that they worked it out, because they were back deliberating for another few few hours, and another note in regards to his actions didn't come from the jury.
Yeah, that note about the juror came at about the 70th minute mark, so they were deliberating a little more than an hour before that note came in. So the second note of note, if you will, the second one that really meant anything today was this about narcotics distribution. What can we glean from that?
Yeah, so specifically, I think it says, if an individual asks for a controlled substance and the person hands it over, is it distribution? So a couple things that we can glean from.
Now that there, if an individual asks for a narcotic and the individual hands it over, is that narcotic distribution? So clearly, the jury thinks that these women asked for the narcotics. That's what it's saying clearly. The jury thinks that they wanted to get high. Hold up now. They sent the note asking if somebody asks for the shit and somebody give it to him, is he distributing? Hold up, man. Hey, listen. I don't think Diddy gonna be found guilty of the RICO, man. I'ma just be real. I don't think he gonna be found guilty of no RICO shit, man. Y'all hear that now? Are y'all paying attention to that right there? Cause hold up. For the jury to send that note out, they thinking like they were asking for the shit. They wanted to get high. Y'all was enjoying this shit. And we gotta be real. They was saying they wanted to get high at times. Maybe times that they felt like they was exhausted, but it was times they wanted to party. And people that have common sense understand, if you was doing the shit because you wanted to do it, don't try to act like you ain't want to do it now and it's somebody else's fault. You wanted to do it. Like, that right there. Yeah, that might say something, y'all.
From that question. Number one, you don't get to the predicate acts to drug distribution unless you have already found that there's already racketeering conspiracy, that it's actually been proven. You don't get to the predicate acts. You don't start talking about the predicate acts unless you have decided, one, that there was an enterprise, and two, that there was an agreement. So I find it fascinating that they've already gotten there. But again, we don't know.
Nah, ain't nobody listening to you, Goofy. Ain't nobody listening to you, Miss Goofy. Straight up. Miss Goofy. Yeah. You trying to say that they already came to the assumption that he's guilty of the racketeering because they asked that. No. He was charged with the distribution. They asking about that. Come on, man. Straight Goofy, man.
Whether it's just one juror who has that question, or a few of the jurors that have that question, or actually all 12 of the jurors have that question. But also in terms of what predicate act that they're asking this question of, remember doing closing.
SBGB TV, it's a live call-in show. What's poppin', Tex?
Yes, sir. Text from out of text. Good brother. Listen, just role play with me. Give me a O. O. Give me a J. J. What does it spell? OJ verdict. That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, so you hoping for the OJ verdict, not guilty?
Yeah, OJ verdict, not guilty. Listen, how many times we've gone to parties and, if you don't have no weed, somebody else in the party do. And they say in the session, yo, you come over, and the blunt goes around. That's distribution, and everybody can be charged for participating in something that they wanted to do, not coerced or forced to do.
I agree they participated, for the jury to ask that question.
And if it's illegal to do, then the law has to stand its weight for justice for all. And everybody get charged. So why does the people who are claiming victims having immunity.
They was participating, man, and they
And
know
they
they
were
was.
participating.
Yeah.
So hey man, give me an OJ verdict. This is crazy, and it's gonna open up a lot of. This is what I was saying the last time. If we don't weaponize our voice to say not guilty, then the government is going to continue to do more of this and more of this and more of this. And it might not be you. I mean, it might not be you this time, but it could be you next time in an unfair system that's overcharging you for some dumb shit. Come on, man, stop it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like they overcharged him, and for them bringing up things from 20 years ago, like why you didn't charge him then? And y'all piled everything up, and now it's like another reason why y'all charging him, but y'all trying to make it seem like it was those things.
And why are you adding charges and then dropping charges? I thought if you brought a charge, you got some evidence to charge me with it.
And then they also using so-called evidence of things that they didn't charge him with to prove the point of what they're trying to charge him with.
I'm confused. Hey, listen, OJ, and let this send a message, because this is bigger than Puffy. This is about a verdict with people who stand behind an unjust system that picks and chooses who they want to target.
They definitely picking and choosing.
So, hey man, OJ verdict for me.
Yeah, it's a possibility, man. But I think it's gonna be like a hung jury. I think that it's gonna be, I don't think it's gonna be a not guilty, but I think it's gonna be a hung jury. I think it's gonna be a not guilty on the RICO, but I think it's gonna be a hung jury on some of the things. I don't think they're gonna be able to come to a unanimous decision.
Now here's the thing. When you talked about, when it said something about distribution, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that doesn't mean that I have to profit from what is something that I'm giving to somebody for free.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm with you on that too. Like that should be a question that should be asked. But when I say when they have these people on the jury, these people haven't experienced the streets and things like that. So it's like they present something to them and then they, make it look a certain way, but these people are not analyzing it like, okay, well, he didn't get any money from this. How is he distributing it? You know what I'm saying? So they not going to think about it that way.
There should be some bills, some in the future to pass, I hope, that teaches law in high school. Because I think a lot of young kids need to understand this stuff before they get involved in stuff like this.
Yeah, I agree.
We need to push for law to be taught in high schools.
Yeah, but it's like the stuff that we deal with in everyday life, they don't teach us this. And it's a lot of people that be in the world, they don't understand that these people really have it made where they make the rules and they break the rules. You know what I mean? And I say, because I've been through the system. You know what I mean? I've been to trial 5 times and I understand how they make things up. And some people have it in their mind, oh, this person's guilty. And they're not looking at, well, they breaking the rules to do what they doing, but they can't be charged for breaking the rules, but they're trying to get a conviction while breaking the rules.
Nasty work.
Yeah.
Nasty work.
Yeah, facts.
Hey, man. All right, man. Enjoying the show, man. Back to listening.
I appreciate you calling in, bro.
All right.
If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button, man. Smash that like button. Yeah. See, you gotta look at things different. I see some people have never experienced the legal system. Straight up. And that a lot of people that be on the internet talking, they haven't experienced the legal system. They just be talking. But I guarantee you, if something was on your ass and you felt like, damn, this ain't right, you would be wanting somebody to, you know, try to fix it. You know what I mean? But I see it's like that in life. You know, you got to have your own experiences. And I've had my own experiences. Been to trial 5 times. When the prosecutors play, they play dirty. Straight up. And that's a fact. SBGB TV, it's a live call-in show. Turn to your call. State your name. Hey, what's poppin'?
Yeah, my name Erica, and I wanted to say I got so much to say because I'm one of the people who actually really have watched this from day one, and I feel a way. Like, and what I mean by that is, they got to let this man go. At the end of the day, listen, if they're calling Rico, I'm from Atlanta, number one, so I watched, you know, the Young Thugs. I watched YSL from the beginning. That was a whole year. We had Rico day one up in there, and Brian Steele stood on business in Westmoreland and Thug at the house. You see what I'm saying? We had shootouts, we had live footage, we had bodies, we had dope, we had everything, and Thug at the house. The best that y'all can say about this man right now is like, so where's the freedom in the United States? Because the only thing y'all doing is trying to control his bedroom. He not on trial for domestic violence. You see what I'm saying? So if that's what they was gonna do, then that would be different. But that's not what he's up there for. He's up there because it's obviously a target, meaning they want him for whatever reason by any means necessary, because that distribution makes absolutely no sense.
At all.
I mean, I can't even understand that even a little bit. And all the bitches, excuse my French, but all the women workers, they was already workers before they even met him. He just happened to be one that paid him the most money out of everybody. Because did you catch, what's her name, Baby Mama 50?
Yeah.
Number one, she used to mess with Quincy first, the son. Just like y'all got to remember with Lori Harvey, remember?
Yeah.
So then you got to take it back to remembering where these girls come from. Not to mention, they said that she had already messed with, you know, Kanye and what's her name, Bianca and Rick Ross. Like, she a known industry person. And I don't know if you saw when 50's original baby mama, the first one, she did an interview, she said it speaks to her character. She was already a known talk girl. So my thing is, everybody, all the women, I'm all for women and children. I have my own children. But what I'm saying is, I come from another side of the coin. I used to work at the club years ago. I'm from the A. I know if anybody remember GC. I used to work up in there. I used to see meets every day. You see what I'm saying? So I come from seeing the other side of it. And they been living their life like this. They been doing these type of things. So now y'all want to let this be a crime? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm with
and
you.
Then another thing too with the women that are each one of them that are saying it, even Cassie for that matter. Think about it. The Capricorn who said that she got kidnapped, she said that she wanted her job back. I'm talking about on trial. Not to mention that she said that if she had her job, they wouldn't even beat her because she would have got in front of this and we wouldn't be at no court. It wouldn't have been no Rico.
Ain't that
She
something?
just want her life and her job back. So everybody forgetting the chief facts of what each person said. Kid Cudi didn't even want no parts of it. He could have said a whole lot more. He didn't if you caught him. He just said what needed to be said to get on in and out the courtroom. You see what I'm saying? So it's crazy to me. And then the other chick who said that she was what is the one who said that she was RAP? You get what I'm saying? And she was, I think her name was Nia. Because there was two of them, but the one that never showed her face, right? Okay. She was the one who said that he sexually, essayed her, all of these things. But then they come back on the cross and show that you still calling this man, posting him, telling him Happy Father's Day and how much you love him. First of all, if anybody violated me, I don't want to see you in this lifetime.
Facts.
Do you get what I'm saying? So I just had to say that because I'm like, watching this is almost comical and a joke. You get what I'm saying? And he's not my favorite person. You know, Kim was like a big sister to me. But I'm a person that's for fair. You get what I mean?
Right.
So they got this. I just can't see it. It's like they reaching for straws trying to convict him of something, and it just makes no sense. And you know, another thing before I go that bothers me is all the women that's windmilling for these girls that, let me tell you something, these girls workers. They bought their life.
Yes.
They ain't even told the real story while they been on the damn stand. You see what I'm saying?
Word.
They left out a whole lot of key facts, you know, but they were able to go and testify to make it seem as though whatever it was. And like I said, I'm all for women who are battered or abused, but this ain't that. What's going on right here? You know, and then Cassie, you got your 30 million.
30 of them things. 30 of them.
And mind you, if this was a criminal trial, none of them folks filed no criminal charges. They all filed for money.
I was saying that the whole time.
So it just don't make sense. That's all I wanted to say. They got to free that man. Hung jury probably gonna come up out of there. A lot of people are upset. And I just can't understand all the people who saying they want him to go to jail. You want a man to go to jail behind bars for 30 years for something like that don't even make sense? The crime, I'm like he said, well, OJ, if the glove don't fit, you got to acquit this thing. Because at the end of the day, he ain't there for, you know, any of the things that, remember they even said that there was children involved. We didn't see one.
Yeah.
Do you remember all the victims that they named before this trial started?
Yeah.
And we were only condensed down to 2-3 people, and that's the best they had.
Yeah. Listen, they influenced the people's mind of him being a bad person, and then they presented bullshit.
And everybody like he finished. He cooked. I beg to differ. I feel like tomorrow, you know, when they closed out today, because I've been watching it closely on the other, you know, like little outlets and stuff. Yeah. And what I heard them say was one of the jurors, he couldn't pull it together in regards to, you know, following the instructions of the court. But also they just had a question at the end that they wanted to turn in about the drug distribution question, right?
Yeah.
So the judge said that they'll start again tomorrow at 9 a.m. So I didn't feel like it would be over with today. I feel like possibly tomorrow, at best Wednesday. But I'm rooting for him. I feel like, you know, people get their karma in other ways. You can't really choose that. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? You can't pay for your health. You can have all the money in the world, but you can't pay for that. You get what I'm saying? So don't worry about what he, you know, how people feel like he should be repaid. I just feel like this ain't fair right here, though. This ain't right. This ain't it. That's it. That's all I want to say.
Hey, listen, I appreciate what you had to say, and like what you did say, these women was workers. And these are the things that the people that saying they want him to go to jail, they want to ignore that. They want to ignore that these women was out here selling themselves, and they selling themselves to rich men. They don't want to put that to the front. They just want to say, oh, he's guilty because we seen what happened on the tape. Yeah, he was guilty of domestic violence, but they didn't charge him for that. And then they're trying to use that 10, 11, 9 years later, which they can't charge him, but they're trying to use that to convict him of what they're trying to charge him with now, that are boost up charges. And then they acting like this is supposed to be the end all. But why didn't y'all charge him before?
I'm with you. Like I said, I'm for all the women who have really been through the real abuse. You know, I'm for y'all, but what I'm saying is this ain't that right here, y'all. So y'all people gotta watch who they windmilling for and who you feel like you standing up for, because this ain't it right here. It's some real people who have been through this. This ain't that. You see what I'm saying? This is totally different.
I'm with you.
I'm with you. I just wanted to say that, and hopefully they'll get a hung jury is what I'm hoping. Or he'll just, you know, something.
Yeah.
Something minor.
I see a hung jury, you know, because them coming with them notes back to back, that means they got questions and they're not all certain and things are not just cut and dry.
And you know what? Before I go, when do you get to pick and choose in America what somebody do in their bedroom? And how is that a crime? I'm just saying, I ain't no person to judge. I mean, you get what I'm saying as far as how he get down. Hey, that's that man's business. Because, I mean, some people are to the extreme like that. And so I'm just never been a person to judge anybody. Because who are you to judge? And everybody that's saying something or judging him, I mean, do y'all live in a glass house? I'm just trying to figure it out.
And
You
then
see what I'm saying?
And I'm with you, but listen to this though, right? The man is on trial, right? And not one time did they say he touched anybody. He only watched. So I'm like, God damn.
That's even more wild, right?
Yeah. He just watched. You know what I mean? And everybody like, oh, he should go to jail. No, he was watching. You know, he had a problem. He had ED. His shit didn't get hard. So he letting them do them and he wanted to watch.
But you know what I was going to say, too, before I go? Another thing about the trial that tripped me out, that they didn't highlight the timeline, and this is another thing about Cassie. When that lady came in there that worked for the hotel, I forgot which hotel it was or whatnot, but remember she was saying that they had such a sophisticated system that it was called Oprah or Opera or something like that. So when you check into it, they know who celebrities are in that particular profile, even though their name is, you know, under you know, like Jane Doe or whatnot, right? Or alias. She said in that file, this lady said that all of the Puff and her had complete access. So if anybody was able to add anything on, take anything they had to do control with those rooms, were the two of them. This was this lady testified. And not only that, but when she testified, the timeline, if you look at it, Chassie was married to that man, Alice Fine, and had kids in 2019. That lady said that FOs happened at the hotel where they was at in 2021, 2022. Let's talk about it. So you telling me you was married and you still was doubling back messing with her? Yeah. So even in my opinion, on the stand right now, 9 months pregnant, I feel like if Puff would have been able to be like, unleash me now. And we gonna run off into the sunset and do FOs for life. She would get the hell on. 9 months pregnant and all. That's just my thought.
They don't want to talk about that though.
You see what I'm saying? I pay attention to the details. And I'm like, wow, they really, like I said, I think it was more with the liquor company, because even when 50 did he did an interview, and remember he had some issues about the liquor situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when he said that, he said he knew how far to go, and then he drew back. He said the fact that Puff went all the way through them folks and then won, and the people who actually own that liquor is like over all of this. Like they like damn near like a Rockefeller energy. So they are you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Responsible for so much. So it's like the powers that be. And it was like you done got out your plate. Liquor. Yeah. Remember Jay-Z song, OJ?
Yeah.
Yellow, white nigga, still nigga. You feel me?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that, and hopefully it will be a hung jury.
Yeah, man, I see that coming, you know, because definitely it's not cut and dry, and it's too much speculation, and we see that it was a lot of participation. Now they playing like they wasn't so much, and it was forced, and I'm not buying it, man, you know, because if it was that way, y'all would have came forward with it, but y'all was going back, and, you know, who goes back and forth?
They were going back and forth.
And get so lit out of your mind that you got to continuously get an IV. Who's going to keep doing that? Come on, man.
Right. Ain't nobody going to keep doing it.
Yes.
I mean,
if you forced to do it, you going to get away from that. They're getting IVs put in them for getting so lit.
Even argue about another thing that tripped me out too was they argue about, did you notice that the Jane Doe number 350 baby mama, she was pissed off because he bought her a Bottega bag, but he shut down a Chanel store for Young Miami. But y'all ain't bringing that up
at all.
But she a victim though. And then she said that he bought her one Van Cleef and bought you know what I'm saying? Everybody bought I think Carisha them about 4 or 5 of them. So I'm trying to figure out where the victim is, because victims don't get anything like that. None of the sort. I mean, if it's an even swap, no swindle, and it's a paid, then that's what it is, right? You get what I'm saying?
Hey,
you pay for your services and you keep it in the road. Y'all didn't hear the highlights of the gifts and the thing. She was pissed off because he gave her 20 bands to go on the private island, but he didn't go with her. because he took Carisha for her birthday somewhere else and really turned up. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is the argument where the women are really windmilling for victims. Where are the victims? I ain't seen a victim yet.
Yeah.
Damn sure ain't no victim arguing about no bags and jewelry.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Shit crazy. Yeah, man. We see what it is, man, and we definitely gonna be watching and see what happens with this. But I don't think that it's gonna be a guilty verdict on everything. I think that some people gonna look at it like, hold on, man. They was participating, they was partying, and just because he gave it to him, did he make any money off the shit? No. So, like, come on.
It was all personal. And my thing is, if we live in America, I thought that we have freedom of speech, free the way we live. So now they're controlling what you do in your bedroom makes no sense to me, especially when it's no victims involved. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would be different, like we said, if, you know, he held folks against their will. But these girls were making decisions to be like, I'm going to do me an F out because I need these 20 bands. They working.
Yeah.
They could have stopped at any time.
Yeah.
Because guess what? He got enough money that it would have been somebody else who would have been willing to do it if they didn't do it, right?
Yeah, they ain't want nobody else to get the money.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I appreciate you calling in, too.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right. Peace.
If you haven't already smashed that like button, hit the like button, man. Hit the subscribe button. And share this live. Man, I appreciate all y'all. Facts. Yeah. But what we seeing, man, it's up in the air. Just being real. Yeah. What we seeing is up in the air, man. Yeah. Hold up. Y'all want to see the man was distributing that work. Ah, man. The jury like, hold on. If they asked for it, right, and we all partying, hold up, they wanted it. We all partying. Come on, man. Yeah. But, you know, I guess because you got that paper, you know what I mean, you got to be the one to make the decision, you know.
Arguments, the prosecution said that if you find 2 independent drug distribution acts, then you can find him guilty of the racketeering conspiracy. So 2 independent times where Sean Combs distributed narcotics to someone, and it can be, you can ask me for drugs, I give you drugs, and that's possession with intent to distribute. It can be that easy, even by you asking me for it. It's that easy when it comes to making out that count. So it's so much that you can look into it. I would be nervous if I was the defense to see a question like that, because again, you must be that you have reached a decision as to that there was an enterprise, a criminal enterprise, an agreement to engage in predicate acts.
Yeah, and count 1, racketeering conspiracy, faces up to life in prison.
Up to life. That's the most serious one.
It's a big deal. And then the other 4 deal with sex trafficking. So take me through the process, because this is day 1, and I'm interested to know, and I think a lot of people maybe watching this too would be interested to know, what happens when the jury goes into that room for the first time, the door shuts behind them, and for the first time in weeks, they are able to talk about this case?
Absolutely. So you got to think, once the jury starts deliberating, and these are the 12 sitting jurors, because the alternate jurors are no longer with this jury. So you have the 12 sitting jurors that are inside of a room, and while they're inside of that room, they don't have access to internet. They don't have access to their phones. Their only communication to the outside world is by sending a note through the 4-person. They have pages that are numbered. They write out their note, whatever it's a question, it's an instruction, or saying that they want to leave by 5. The 4-person signs it, dates it, times it, and then they knock on the door and they give it to whoever the courtroom deputy is or the courtroom marshal that's standing by the door to take whatever notes that exist. So when they're inside that room, the 12 deliberating jurors, the first thing that they do is that they select who the foreperson is. And that's exactly what happened. That was the first note that the court received today, announcing that there is a foreperson and juror number 5 is a foreperson. Now, we don't know whether it's actually the sitting juror number 5 or whether it's a juror who had the number 5 when they were originally selected. So we're unsure as to who exactly the foreperson is. The foreperson doesn't have any more power or decision making than any other person. The only thing is that the foreperson, 1, announces the verdict if there's a verdict, and 2, signs whatever notes that are sent out for the judge. But once we move on from there, the jury right now, they have access to a laptop that has the evidence on it. They also have the written jury instructions. So that's another thing that's like ringing a little bell in my head, because you have the jury instructions. So for them to have asked about the possession with intent to distribute, they want more clarification. So with the jury instruction, the evidence, and I believe they may have some transcripts or some testimony. I'm not sure if they have all of the testimony with them. They get to talking. 12 strangers that do not know each other now get to discuss finally the evidence that they've heard. They get to talk about Jane and Cassie and these videos and what they think about the case and what evidence they found credible. Was there an arson? Hey, Kid Cudi, you saw him testify, famous singer, rapper. You saw him testify. What do you think about what he testified to? Capricorn Clark, what do you think about what she testified? Oh, 2 entertainers also testified in this case. What do you think about that? I think also you get these jurors that remember throughout the whole trial, they were also taking notes, because each one of them were given a notebook and they were taking notes throughout the trial. But the judge in his instructions specifically say that their notes don't carry more weight than what the transcript actually says. So the transcript is what's binding, not any juror's particular notes.
How often do they kind of take a straw poll and say, where is everybody at?
They probably already did. I think that's probably where they got to that one juror that had an issue or has an issue with deliberating.
So they basically go through the 5 counts.
It's quite possible.
Count 1, what does everybody think? Vote, and then assume, obviously they haven't reached a verdict yet, so there was some disagreement. So then when they operate, so tomorrow morning they'll come back at 9 a.m., get some clarification on, both sides are still trying to figure out what to even say to them,
what
right?
to say to them. So the prosecution wants this judge to tell the jury that what was on the mind of the person that received the narcotics shouldn't play any role as to the possession with intent to distribute. So whether someone asked for it or didn't ask for it, it doesn't affect the elements of possession with intent to distribute.
And the defense is still trying to work through what they want.
Trying to figure it out, yes. But also, by them asking that question, the defense can also glean, oh, they're taking into account whether Jane or Cassie actually wanted it, because remember, when we're asking about whether a person wanted it, we're going into the sex trafficking and about whether this sex was consensual. So you probably do have one juror that's taken that into account as to the consent of both these women.
Of course, you're going to have a juror taking it into the account. You know what I mean? Of course. They wanted to play, man.
It's so tough to know how long these
It is.
go,
It
right?
is.
But do you have any gut feeling on where we're at with the process?
A case like this is difficult. And the reason that it's much more difficult than another RICO case is because of the defendant. And you're dealing with a celebrity who once had the key to New York City.
Literally.
Literally known throughout the world. So I think that plays a huge role. It's almost like putting extra weight on the prosecution that, no, it's beyond all doubt. You have to prove it. And of course, that's not the standard. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. Yeah. So much plays into it, because also you got to think that because this is Sean Diddy Combs, people on the jury can be like, no, this is not what he should go down for. It should have been state charges. He shouldn't have been charged with racketeering charges. That, the government is targeting him. They should focus on other crimes, not this. This is something that's petty. You just never know what's on the mind of these jurors.
Yeah, because part of the jury instruction, the judge told them, you are the ultimate trier of the facts.
That's right. The most important people in that courtroom right now, Mike, are those 12 jurors. It's not the judge, it's not the government, it's not the defense attorneys. It's those 12 jurors. Those 12 jurors are ultimately going to decide the fate of Sean Diddy Combs.
And you got the sense of the weight of it all when we heard earlier that Sean Combs and his family appeared to be praying together and bowing their heads as the jury set out on this very important decision. And they're back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We appreciate your perspective as always, and we'll see what the notes that follow will bring and try to figure out when we're going to get a decision on this important case.
We'll be on standby waiting for that verdict.
Yes, we will. Bernard.
Yo, man. Smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. Yeah. We gonna see how tomorrow go. With that. They'll be back at it tomorrow. And yeah. The jury got some stuff to review. But I don't think they all gonna come to the same decision. You know what I'm saying? And, I think people that, have money, they do things that's out of pocket. And then I also think that the average person, is living check to check, just making it, right? Whenever they see something about somebody that got money, it's automatic. They need to go to jail. Yeah, they need to go to jail. Nah, they need to go to jail. Yeah. I think in Diddy's situation, man, that's what they was wanting to do. They could have got up out of there. They ain't had to be there. Straight up. They ain't had to be there. Not at all. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button, and share this video, man. Yeah. This is one case that, definitely, we don't know how it's going to go, but it got to go somewhere, Yeah. But I appreciate all of y'all. Facts. SBGB TV, it's a live call-in show. State your name, where you called in from.
It's Chichi from Florida, man. I'm not sure if you remember, like a few weeks ago, I called up here and I was like, bro, he's going to get free. It's just a humiliation ritual. I still stand on that right there. He's going to be free, and it's a humiliation ritual. They switched the prosecutors. A prosecutor that's her dad is tied into all these secret societies. Yeah, people can't wrap their brain around it because it's like, oh, it's in court systems and this and that. Those are the people that run those societies, bro. He's got to be able to put his life in their hands and trust the process. So I still stand on this, just a humiliation ritual, bro. So he will be free.
I think he's going to definitely get a break somewhere. I think it's going to be a hung jury, and somehow he's going to get a break behind it, because I don't think they're going to want to try this case again. So, yeah.
Yeah, facts, bro. It's just all the stuff they be saying, like, okay, no cameras in the courtroom. It happens, you know what I mean? Whatever. But when they start talking about all this, like, real sex, like, explaining just their sexual activities, that's not no real court, man. Like, that ain't no real. Like, they could speak on it, but not the way they were doing it. So it was just like straight up humiliation, bro. Straight up humiliation. That's all it was.
And they did a hell of a job at doing that.
100%. And then they come and switch a juror, and they doing all these, bro. That's all these puppet games, man. I'm telling you, that man finna walk free. Yeah, he had to give up some money. And the third, I'm sure the girl he gave up most of his money, that gave up most of that money to, was another chick that's been passed around the secret societies since she was 15, 16 years old. She's part of all that. She's part of it. She's part of it.
That's what she was into.
Yeah, man, they love that shit, bro. That's what they get into. Those societies, bro. Like, just to be quick, because I know you got people calling. Those societies, they practice on sin. So what they'll do is they're brainwashed. They're brainwashed to think sin is what's gonna save them. So what they'll do is if they go commit a sin, it's like gathering the sins, like in the secret world. It's gathering the sins and making it known. So when they pass on to this is what they're brainwashed with. So they pass on to the next world. The sins were captured here on earth, so that they're gonna live in the next world without sin. So that's what they practice on sin to like a cast net. They gather all these sins, and when they go to the next world, they're gonna live in a life of sin because they were able to expose the sin. It's weird, bro. It's devil trickery shit, and that's what they're on to, bro. I'm telling you.
Okay. Good point of
bro,
view, bro.
It goes deep, bro. It's crazy, but I'm telling you, that's what it is.
Good point of view on that, brother.
Yes, sir, brother. Have a good day.
All right, appreciate you calling in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button, man. Hit that like button, you hear me? Straight up. Yeah. When you get that paper, you become a target. And yeah. This situation is Diddy is a target. If they felt that he was doing all this shit, they should have been charged him in my eyes. Y'all wait till now. He's a target. Yeah. He's a target. And we know when you heavy in the game and you with them folks, they gonna cater to you. So we gonna see, man. All the women enjoy all the different men pounding and dripping loads in them, if you ask me. Hey, too much. Yeah. They was workers. You know. Yeah, y'all. Man, I appreciate all of y'all rocking with me, man. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go get swole. You know, we're going to go to the gym, get it in. And then after the gym, we're going to get back on the live. So I'm going to go get this workout in. And I appreciate everybody that watches the channel, everybody that hit the like button, you know, and everybody that subscribed, you know, became a member. You know, go check out the merch, sbgbtv.com. You know, I appreciate all of y'all. Big facts, you know. And yeah, I'm going to go get swole. We'll be back. Y'all already know what it is. It's not about the setback. It's about the get back. Nah.